Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And now, the champion, fighting out of Los Angeles, California. This man is a movie snob with a background in fighting and a lifelong addiction to all things superhero related. Presenting the reigning, defending, undisputed host of the show, the Iron Cube.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is episode number 98 of the Iron Cube Fights movies on our road to Avengers Endgame, episode 100. This episode is available on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, and hosted by SoundCloud. We now have a Facebook page for the podcast you can follow for updates, as well as my 1/6 scale figure reviews. This week, the team reviews Captain America Civil War, followed by movie, television, and video game news. We're a little bit short on time this week, so we're going to skip the fight of the week. And we've got like a condensed version of the news. We're also reviewing Game of Thrones in full spoilers each week until the conclusion. This week is episode 2 of season 8, A Night of Seven Kingdoms. I'm Keo, your host. With me on the show today are my co-hosts Emerson.
Hey.
And Everett.
Hey, what's going on?
All right. We're gonna just talk straight spoilers about Captain America Civil War because anyone who is listening to this has seen it at this point. Here's a synopsis. Political pressure mounts to install a system of accountability when the actions of the Avengers lead to collateral damage. The new status quo deeply divides members of the team. Captain America, played by Chris Evans, believes superheroes should remain free to defend humanity without government interference. Iron Man, played by Robert Downey Jr., sharply disagrees and supports oversight. As the debate escalates into an all-out feud, Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson, and Hawkeye, played by Jeremy Renner, must pick a side. That's weird that they mentioned just them. Black Widow and Hawkeye. What the hell? It sounds like it depends on them. I mean, Black Widow played a role. Hawkeye really didn't, but... Okay. We're just going to talk straight spoilers here. Emerson, why don't you go first this time? What's your rating?
So it's a win for me.
I forgot the rating system. I'm going to explain our rating system. On this show, we give the titles we've watched with a rating of win, draw, or loss. A win is a title that we would highly recommend, while a draw is a title we didn't love but recognize others may appreciate. A loss means we do not recommend the title. So, Emerson, now that we know what a win means, tell us your rating.
I give it a win. This is still a phenomenal movie in the MCU. Arguably, maybe my favorite, I would say, at this point.
What do you mean, arguably? You did not give it the number 1 spot.
It gave it the number 2 spot, though. And as we've been talking about before, there's something I want to see from the arc that Infinity War finished. So, you know, it depends a lot on Endgame, since I'm treating it basically as one large story there. So, but anyways, it's arguably my favorite movie because of that, because I'm assuming Endgame's going to let me down. But going back to it, it was just phenomenal. I love the acting, the writing, the fighting, the themes, the serious nature of it. The only thing I did notice on this watch back is that first action sequence in Africa. It has a lot of cuts in the fighting, like so many that it was distracting, and like almost difficult to follow. I don't know why, but I was like, good God, was it always this cut? But then, you know, once it got past that, all the fighting seemed pretty good to me, at least.
It's one of the weaker of the action sequences, but to be honest, it's still one of the best of the MCU.
I'd agree with that. It's just the mass amount of cuts, like when they're running into the infectious diseases place. Like every fight is just cut. And so I noticed that, but you know, phenomenal movie.
All right, Everett.
I give it a win, which I'm very regretful that I didn't put this movie higher on my list. So if we ever do that list again, I'm definitely going to change my vote.
Yeah, we're doing it this week.
Great. So I'll change my vote on that. Rewatching this movie, I really love doing like movie watches like this because it makes me ask questions about the universe, like the movie universe, that I didn't really think of before.
The real
I like to question my being while I watch these movies. No, but so tell me if I'm wrong, but I think last time we talked about this movie, we hadn't seen Black Panther, Captain Marvel really hadn't existed yet, Infinity War hadn't come out yet. So after watching all these movies and coming back to this, it's interesting to watch it, especially now that you know that Black Panther takes place like a week after the events of this movie, and if you've read the Civil War comics, like how things could have been different, like if Captain Marvel was there, because I know she plays a decently big part in the comics, and kind of comparing like different things that happened in the movie and in the comic books. Like there's one thing that I am a little bit the one thing I am a little bit annoyed about this movie is that I feel like
No
the
cyborg
cause
Thor.
well, that, but more along the lines of I feel like the beginning scene where the Accords are even put into place, like the event that takes place. I feel like it's not big enough because in the comics they like nuked a school and killed a bunch of children and stuff. Like,
Yeah, that's something I want to discuss.
but it's still
all
a
right.
win for me. So we'll get to what you're saying.
So for me, this is the highest win I can give an MCU movie. And let's just get right into it. But I want to make a bet. Okay, my bet is that when the dust is settled, we're all gonna vote this as number one. Anyone feel otherwise?
I'll match it for the sake of the bet.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Are you
agree.
saying, Emerson, that or ever too, that Endgame will be number one?
There was something I wanted to talk about that just briefly, okay? So before you asked me, because I had watched Winter Soldier a couple weeks back, you asked me, how did it make you feel about Captain Marvel? How did it make you feel about Infinity War? Okay? And this movie made me like Tony's arc in Infinity War a lot more. Well, not more, but it reinforced my enjoyment of it. But we've talked about Endgame. We've talked about our concerns. My hype is still there. But I suspect at the end of Endgame, you'll probably be right that Endgame will not pass this. But for the sake of the bet, I will take you up on it.
Okay. Everett, what do you say? Will Endgame be number one? Will
You know-
Infinity War be number one, or will it be this one?
Had you asked me a week ago, I would have agreed with Emerson, but I don't know. I'm probably gonna more shift towards agreeing with you for this one.
So you're saying Civil War will be the
Yeah,
undisputed king?
I'll think Civil War is probably the best one, mainly because if we talk a little bit more about what happened with Endgame this week on this podcast, my hype has significantly decreased.
Okay, we're not going to talk about it in detail this episode, but yeah, we will. I will bring it up. Okay, Captain America: Civil War. So I have notes on everything I liked, which is almost every scene in the movie. So let's just go through this. What do you guys think about that beginning flashback of seeing Bucky in 1991?
I like it. I think it's cool
yeah.
that he's like being brought out to do things, you know? I kind of wish I could. I know that there's a series like Falcon and Winter Soldier on Disney Plus. I almost wish I could see a series of when he worked for Hydra. Like, I want to know what he did.
Yeah,
Well, I feel like
Who
we'd
did
see
he
that
get
in a
sent
Black
to deal
Widow
with?
movie, right?
possibly. But this is like what you're saying, Emerson. This is something that I felt like we needed to see. How is Winter Soldier brainwashed? Like, how was he maintained? Like, it was all kind of weird and just up in the air. And like to actually see when they lift up the freeze tube, and he's like totally frozen, and you see like what the hell they're doing to him and the way he's controlled. It really just cleared up a lot. How about when we see him kill Tony Stark's parents?
Are you talking about like at the very beginning? You're talking about when it
Yeah.
actually shows it.
Oh, well, yeah, the action scene at the beginning where he takes the car and it's like mission accomplished.
I feel like that's needed. That's like a variant of Chekhov's gun where it's used to explain it to people, and I think it worked really well. They didn't over-explain it.
Right. And did you guys feel like we needed to see Dominic Cooper as Howard Stark here.
I liked it.
him. I liked it. It was fine.
It was John Slattery here.
Yeah, and even though I liked Dominic Cooper, I think John Slattery did fine. I really do. I think he's a good actor.
He's
Yeah.
great. It's just, the consistency, because all the Captain America movies have used Dominic Cooper, even though he was like shown young both times, and all the Iron Man movies have used John Slattery. So this one was kind of like, which one is it going to be?
And
then-
I'm okay with John Slattery.
Now, I've been rewatching all the MCU movies, and it's been a lot of fun. But John Slattery was an Ant-Man while they aged up whoever plays Peggy. I forget her name.
I don't
So-
know her name.
So it's just they're not really consistent in that concept. Is this the best Black Widow we've ever seen?
I think Iron Man 2 is probably some of the best we've ever
You
seen.
liked her there?
Yeah,
I think
She was like a child.
I think
I
that,
liked it in Iron Man 2.
I think that this is some of the best we've ever seen, mainly because I think she tends to be fine in the Avengers movies. The problem is she doesn't do much in the Avengers movies. She just will say some things and then fight. She doesn't steal the show. Here she
Right.
really did well. Her relationships with Tony Stark, her relationships with Captain America, and her own internal struggle over what she thinks is right.
I think it's her performance here is just slightly overshadowed by the one we see in Winter Soldier. Just slightly.
Winter Soldier, huh? Maybe, yeah, maybe. I prefer this one, mainly because of a lot of her acting, a lot of her delivery. In Winter Soldier, she's very much propelled by the plot, whereas in this one, there's a lot of character moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She makes the choice of what she's going to do in this movie a lot, which gives Scarlett Johansson a little bit more to work with. Okay, so the guy that she's chasing in the market, the black guy, that was the original Thanos, wasn't it?
Really?
The
I
one
had
at
no
the end
idea.
of Avengers. I'm pretty sure that's him.
Oh, I forgot that they had a different actor for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, they've gone through a lot of changes with Thanos over the MCU movies.
Would you guys, I was thinking about this as I watched Guardians, would you guys like a version, or would you like them to go back and redo Guardians to change it to the new Thanos model? Because
I
you already
like
have Josh.
I like the model that they used in Guardians. He looks a little beefier.
I like it. Well, he's actually smaller, is the thing.
Really?
Yeah, because I had the Hot Toys figure. He's smaller.
I mean, maybe it's just because he was in his armor. I like that one version a lot better, though.
Well, I mean, the new one's in the armor. So would you rather go back and see him in that armor?
Yeah, that armor I like a lot better.
But I do wish, because Josh Brolin, I think he's a good Thanos. I know
Well, it's still him. It's just not his, it's not the model. It's the same voice, though.
So
Sorry. So what are you saying then?
So it's in Guardians of the Galaxy, it's Josh Brolin playing Thanos, but the model is different.
So what you're saying, they
yeah.
re-release it with different mocap work?
Not different mocap work, just a different model.
Yeah, I think that would be
The
nice just
updated
for
one.
continuity.
Yeah.
Because one thing I was also thinking about recently is, imagine if, let's say you're 6 years old right now, right? So you haven't been watching these movies as they come out, and someday down the road, you jump into this series for whatever reason, and you watch them. They should do something about the continuity here, because really it's kind of all over the place.
I don't think you can fix a whole lot of it. I
You
mean, I'm
can
watching
fix
Spider-Man
some of it.
Homecoming right now. Yeah, that's 8 years later. It's fucked. It's ruined.
I feel like if you went back and did that for Guardians, though, you'd have to go back and do it for the other times he's appeared.
Well, he
End of
only appeared
Avengers
in
and,
Age of
what is it?
Ultron was a post-credit sequence. But yeah, I would say do it for all of them, because it's not like getting a new actor, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you can go back and put Mark Ruffalo into the Incredible Hulk
you know what? I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind it if they did that.
if they just redid the whole movie.
If they just redid the whole movie with him, I'd love that.
He got old, though.
Yeah.
He's old. They're all old.
I wouldn't want to see an aged down version.
So one of my favorite parts of this movie is the fight with Crossbones. And I'm
Really?
talking more specifically like that hand-to-hand fight. One, because of the intensity. Like the first thing he says to him is, "There you are, you son of a bitch." Like that's at the beginning of a Marvel movie.
Them fighting words.
And he punches him in the back, and he's got like some cool contraption on him. And the reason I like it is because he goes after Cap pretty hard, but Cap there's that one moment where he deploys the blade.
Mm-hmm.
And like the way they shot it is like Cap like just gets like shocked to see it, and then there's that cool moment where Cap like takes off the gauntlet and throws it on the ground, and kind of like faces back off against him, and then he pulls like another blade or something like that, I think.
Yeah, the other gauntlet.
Yeah.
Quick side note: you know that gauntlet is the same one that they used for Shocker's fist, right?
Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's what eventually became Shocker's fist.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, I thought it like had a familiar design. Yeah, so I just love that part of it, where Cap like faces off against him, throws the gauntlet down, the other blade comes out, he fights him again, finally beats him up. Now let's talk a little bit about what you were saying, Everett. So in the comics, it's like a reality TV show with like young, superpowered individuals, and they're like running around being morons, and they pick a fight with someone who's like insane and can like he can blow himself up or something, right? That's his power.
I know it's. I'm trying to figure out. What's the name of the team? The New Warriors. That's what it was.
Yeah, and it was Speedball that was like the one who was blamed for it, right?
I think so.
So
I'm
yeah.
looking at the plot right now just to remind myself. It was the New Warriors versus Cobalt Man, Speed Freak, Cold Heart, and Nitro.
Nitro's the one that blows himself up.
Yeah, and they kill they blow up a town, I think, and they kill a bunch of schools.
They kill hundreds of kids at a school. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Emerson, did you ever read the comic?
No, but you guys have talked about it.
Okay, so from your point of view, blowing up hundreds of kids at a school versus what we saw in this film, do you feel like what we saw in this film was enough?
Yes, I do. And I think it's better because blowing up hundreds of kids sounds so extreme that, like, there would be no one saying, like, okay, we shouldn't regulate this somewhat, you know? And from what I know about the Civil War comic,
good point, yeah.
is it's kind of shit.
No,
I'm just going to say
it's
it.
not. It's not.
It's
shit.
one of the better ones.
I've heard like Iron Man becomes like a Nazi and is like recruiting like villains.
No, people like to exaggerate. What happens is he's just a bit out of character. Like he kind of leans into his side of the war a little too much, like his ideology. It's not like a Nazi. He's just like he's basically doing what this guy is doing. Like it's very close to the comic in that way. Like you saw in this movie how he's got his friends in the raft now, right?
Yeah.
It's not unlike that, except they used the negative zone in the comics.
But anyways, the point was like if a bunch of kids are dying, I think everyone, and if it was because these random superheroes did this, I'd be like, yeah, I think everyone would agree that there needs to be oversight. What I like about this is it demonstrates, okay, Black Widow was trying to save Cap and she caused casualties.
Scarlet Witch.
Jesus, sorry. But so Scarlet Witch, yeah, she causes these casualties, and it's like the last domino. Because I really love when Ross comes in and he's showing every single thing that happened. And what's interesting about it is, in Avengers, you cheer when Hulk's jumping through buildings.
Yeah.
But when it's shown from the ground point of view, it is terrifying.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a note on that. Like you're completely right that that's the way they should do it in this movie, where it's more like the last straw than like just pure recklessness. But that's why I think that the comic did it a little bit better, because in these movies you've already seen the amount of destruction they've done. In Civil War, I think it's more viewed as a we need to be more careful in the future, and this is how we're going to do it.
Well, you also have to remember that in the comics, the world is filled with superpowered beings. Like they're literally like the guy next door can blow up your whole block. So in this movie, it's like 10 people. Yeah. So it makes sense that it would be focused on the Avengers and not like just a random idiot doing something terrible.
And if the event, as I said before, if Captain America had been there and they had killed hundreds of kids, I can't see his character being like, well, I still think we're smart about that. I would see him as like
No,
quitting.
that is a good point, but I will say that I think that there was probably more destruction in the script regarding the explosion, but you couldn't show it for the PG-13 rating or whatever the rating was.
A lot of shit happened in the comics. Like, didn't Bill Foster get like a hole blown through his chest?
Yeah, Cyborg Thor kills
Yeah, there's
Bill
that.
Foster. Bill Foster, for anyone who doesn't know, is Lawrence Fishburne's character on Ant-Man and the Wasp. He was Giant Man.
They have to, and he died in his big mode too, so they had to make a massive grave.
Yeah, so ultimately, like, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this explosion. I like that it wasn't so big that it was like, okay, everyone just stop. But it was big enough where everyone says, okay, let's stop for a second and look at this.
I also like that it was Scarlet Witch's fault. She was trying to save Cap. She wasn't trying to do it, but she didn't think ahead. And so,
I mean, I don't know what else she could have done.
well, she should have thrown him the other way.
Can I make another note about that? In that scene, it looks so goddamn painful when she holds him as he's about to explode. Like, can you imagine that? Like, you like pump a suicide vest and you explode, and then you have like that condensed in a bubble.
Have
like
you guys heard the rumor
motion.
that he's coming back for Endgame?
Why?
No.
I don't know. I've heard the rumor. Maybe it was a flashback or something, but he's in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like him.
I like him. It's just weird how he became more comic accurate with this transformation, but the way he talked kind of changed. He was more of like, "Hey, yous guys, I'm gonna get you." Like he wasn't like that in Winter Soldier.
No.
He was like a by the book soldier.
I think that they had to change him for this, like, but also like I get him wanting revenge. Hydra's fallen apart. They took his face. He's like, all right, I'm gonna kill you. Like,
Yeah. Okay. So we see this scene with Tony and his parents. What do you guys think of young Tony?
It looks a little ugly.
yeah, it doesn't look great, but because of what it is in the movie, I overlook it.
What don't you like about it?
I just think it looks a little. It's uncanny valley, right? So I don't fault them to this, but it's like it doesn't. There's nothing I can pinpoint except it doesn't really look human to me. It's not bad CGI. It's just, as I said, uncanny valley effect.
Well, I took, they give you a real good close up of it, and I just, Robert Downey Jr. has such a weird face. If you think about what the hell they did, they took a 50-year-old Robert Downey Jr. and he acted those scenes, and they turned him into like a 19-year-old. It looks
Technology.
pretty damn good for that. Like
For
they're-
that.
Technology.
Huh? What?
I don't know. It seemed a little bit too reminiscent of when we watched Rogue One and we saw Tarkin on screen. It kind of reminded me of that.
I feel like he was better than Tarkin.
Really?
I'm gonna take a middle ground between you guys. I think he was better than Tarkin. Okay, but I also agree with Everett that like maybe it's because he doesn't have facial hair, which makes it look weird, like just because of his face. But there's something about it that's like a little weird.
I think he has a
It
weird
seems a little
face.
artificial, is all. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's just we're so used to seeing Tony Stark with his famous goatee.
Well, no, but you're right. But think about it. Like, they had to de-age him like 30 years and
Yeah.
turn his face into a young man's face. So some of it has to be artificial because, you can't undo that.
Right. You're right. It has to be done if you want to do that. It looks good for what they did.
I think it's as good as it could have been. I don't know what else they could have done.
And bringing up the whole, like, that whole scene in general, has it been confirmed that they're bringing that barf stuff back in Endgame?
The Russo said that it's going to play a role.
Well,
Okay.
originally the rumors were that New York was barf, but
Yeah.
then that went away.
Yeah. Okay. I wrote in my notes Scarlet Witch Lady, but I don't know what that means. So anyway, from that scene we go to where it says Pepper Potts' name. Did you guys like that she wasn't in it? What'd you guys think?
Well, when I saw it the first time, yes, because it kind of fits with the theme of loss and the idea that things are not great. But in hindsight now, it just seems kind of stupid because she's back and she seems to be playing a significant role. So,
well, at the end of Iron Man 3, he literally like cures her, destroys all his suits, and goes off to like be with her.
I thought at this point in time she was like having arguments with Disney and Marvel, saying like I don't want to come back, and they like had to like stepstone around that.
There was some of that involved. Yeah, so if people were saying is she in, is she out, and I felt like the Russos did a good job here of like sort of explaining, because later he says like, you know, he just couldn't stop. He just went right back to it, and so I like that, and I didn't miss her here, and I liked where she was. I like that explanation, and you kind of felt it like there's Tony Stark and there's no Pepper, and he's literally like she's gone, and I believe it. Maybe it's Robert Downey Jr.'s acting, but it did seem like he had lost something. Did you guys get that?
Yeah.
This would be a good time now to talk about, because Everett, you reminded me what the state of the MCU was when this film came out. And for me, what I remember was a couple things. Because if you look back at the first phase of the MCU, you had the origin stories, right? Mm-hmm. So in terms of the actors' motivation and morale, the origin stories is like, hey, let's do this superhero movie. Now, from an actor's point of view, some people love doing superhero movies, but most of them don't. And the reason is, in my opinion, because the stories just aren't very good. There's a lot of CGI, there's a lot of stupid costumes, and it's like by the numbers, cheesy lines, whatever, right? So then we get Avengers. You guys with me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so you get Avengers, and it's like more of the same sort of cheesy, happy, go team bullshit, right?
And I was okay with that for Avengers.
It's a hit, yeah. So they're all like, wow, we made history, like that was cool, you know, it'll be great exposure for my career, blah, blah, blah. What next? Am I going to keep like doing these movies, these cheesy, corny movies forever? So you don't really want to do it. But then you got the sequels, and now you're riding high on Avengers fame, and everyone wants to see it. So you're like, okay, I'm going to do these movies. So you get Iron Man 3, you get Thor, and you get Captain America. Of those three, only Captain America came out better than he was from Avengers with Winter Soldier. Then you have Guardians, which was like something else, so it's not even about you. And then you have Avengers Age of Ultron. That was another cheesy, corny type movie. Giant ensemble cast and spectacle, and just not much there for the individual actor. If you guys remember, after Age of Ultron, there was talk of Iron Man 4. Do you guys remember this?
Yeah.
And Tony Stark was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at it now, it's Civil War, it's Infinity War, it's Spider-Man Homecoming, and Endgame. Like, there's 4 movies since then that could easily be described as Iron Man 4. But he was like not into it. Chris Evans was talking about becoming a director, Snowpiercer. He didn't want to do it either, right? And remember, there was no Spider-Man.
Yeah, got all those talks with Sony and stuff.
So when they made this film, they were like, they had a version, and you have to go online. I don't, unless you know one of you two. I don't remember.
I remember. It's
what Civil War was going to be.
It was going to be like a zombie movie almost, like something like that. Like drones were like threatening everybody, or like there's a virus or something. They had like a plan in place that if any of the actors that they needed for Civil War weren't going to do it, they had like a bunch of backup plans.
Yeah. So Tony Stark was not like, we didn't know. They basically went to Tony Stark and they're like, listen, we're going to make Captain America 3. But if you say you'll do it, then we're going to do Civil War. If you say no, we're not going to do it. So he said he was going to do it, and I don't know if it was the script or the Russo brothers or what that convinced them. But here it says there was pre-Spider-Man. there was Tony Stark would recruit somebody else. He probably recruits Ant-Man, I think would be the idea. Well, we had a section where you could recruit somebody. And it said Tony actually went to San Francisco. It would have been cool. I believe Scott was watching his daughter play soccer. It wasn't very good. So that was interesting anyway. But so we know what happened with Sony, right? They make 2 shit movies. They don't know what to do. They can't make a 3rd shit movie. So they strike a deal with Marvel. Now Spider-Man can appear in the Marvel movies. And Sony finances and takes the money for their individual solo movies like Homecoming. And Sony takes the money for the individual ones. Marvel takes the money for any movie Spider-Man appears in that's like an ensemble, not Spider-Man film. So he shows up. Now, interestingly enough, you guys caught that one thing about Ant-Man at his daughter's soccer game?
Yep.
That's where that line comes from. Does anyone have any orange slices?
Really?
Like in the fight when he shrinks back down.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from. Anyway, so they get Spider-Man, they get Tony Stark, they're going to do Civil War. They got everybody else. It's going to be awesome, right? I just want to say that as I'm watching this film, like when I'm getting to the conclusion, I was so energized to see the next Marvel movie in line. Like, extremely energized. I'm like, this is amazing. I want more of this. I want more of this.
What came out after this? Was it
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. Which isn't a bad one to follow up.
No, it's not. But I'm just saying, like, this is the kind of thing that I'm like, damn, this was like lightning in a bottle.
Well, I guess isn't this the movie that scored the Russo brothers' Infinity War and Endgame?
I think they might have been already. Yeah, basically it was an audition because they showed that they could balance all the characters. So anyway, I just thought like this film, to me, it's the peak of the MCU. Another thing I want to point out, my favorite MCU trailer is actually trailer 2 for this movie. It's the one where Spider-Man shows up at the end. It's very dark and ominous, and I just love it. So definitely check that out at some point. Like it's something I'll go back and watch randomly. Okay, getting back to the movie here. You guys recognize Alfie Woodard?
No.
She was Mariah in Luke Cage.
Oh yeah, she was that.
Yes,
she was that
I did
woman
recognize
who cornered
her.
Tony
Okay, yeah.
Stark.
So
I
do we
quite
care
like
that she's
that.
playing 2 people?
Nah, not
No,
really.
because one of them's dead. But
And also, Luke Cage isn't even a real thing.
yeah. But I think that was great. Everything about that scene, like Stark thinks it's casual. He realizes she was waiting for him. He's like paranoid about what she's gonna do. I loved every part of that.
I really like Robert Downey Jr. in this film all throughout.
Yeah.
I want to go
he's-
watch this
he's good
again.
in almost
I want to
every
go watch
film.
this again right now. Like I could honestly, we should have just done like a commentary because I need to go back and like this is so good.
Why don't we do a commentary one day?
Yeah, we might. But like when she pushes the picture into his chest, like it's so sudden. Like it's very well written and well acted. I mean, compare this to Captain Marvel. Not to shit on that, but like it's just a different league, honestly. Like
Well, you don't have a bratty actress, and you don't have all like the
whoa, what are you trying to say?
I'm saying Brie Larson's like, kind of bitchy.
Yeah, no, she is. Yeah, whatever it's referencing is the interview with Chris Hemsworth, Don Cheadle, and Brie Larson, where I'll be honest, like, I'm not into this whole male-female thing that, like, Brie Larson is tied up in and the internet is tied up in, but I'm going to just say she was a total bitch in that interview, and there's something wrong with her. Like, I was indifferent, and now I'm kind of like, I don't like her, and it was almost like, I didn't want to buy a Ben Affleck action figure because I didn't really want to have Ben Affleck on my shelf because I didn't really like him. I dislike her more. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it, but you should definitely go watch it. And like, there's just a lot of weird tension. Anyway, so Tony's guilt in this film. Do you guys believe it?
Yes.
I think he's right.
Especially in hindsight. Because he takes Peter on as sort of a protege type role going forward from this, okay? And when I was looking at this film, he's looking at this young kid who's a genius. Like, he is right to feel guilty. And with that line when he says, "Yeah, we were in Sokovia kicking ass, and we dropped a building on him."
Yeah.
That's such a powerful line.
Yeah.
Such a powerful line.
Now,
Because
go ahead.
you know, and what I really respect Marvel for is a lot of the criticism at this point was like, oh, people always say that the Batman versus Superman, like, they're killing hundreds of people, but they're killing hundreds of people in Avengers and no one addresses it. And this movie does address it.
Yeah.
That was
Really well.
one thing I actually wanted to nitpick about this movie was it kind of peeved me that when Ross is showing them all the clips of all the destruction they've caused, no one mentioned Quicksilver once. The fact that he died for everybody, no one mentions it
Because
once.
it was a fucking joke. He literally says a one-liner as he's falling to the ground. But no, I actually do want to bring that up. One thing about Age of Ultron was like everybody was basically begging for a death. And we've kind of been begging for a death since then. And I suspect we might still be. But we've all been basically like, okay, we want some stakes. We want it to be real now. I even remember at the end of watching Age of Ultron with Jade, she was like, well, someone had to die. It was getting kind of stupid. Like, they're literally doing so much crazy shit and no one's dying. So then they kill that one guy. And of course, it's a joke because God forbid, like, something real happens. And so that was another thing where, like, the public, like us, the audience, we were sort of burnt out on that sort of, kicking ass type of thing. So when they show this and it's like, yeah, we've been ruining lives. People have been dying left and right since we started. Like, for them to finally go back and address it is the kind of stakes we want. Like, you know, and we've discussed this a lot in the recent weeks. We're not saying kill people for the sake of killing people. We just want things to matter. You know?
Yeah.
And so this movie's going back and saying, like, hey, remember this, this, and this? Yes, it was good, but it's also bad. Like, this is what happens. Like, legitimately, this is what happened otherwise. So, like, we need to address this now. Like, this is the time for it. You had all your other movies, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm just watching Spider-Man Homecoming. And he goes to that Italian shop, and then it blows up later with the bank robbery. You guys remember?
Yeah.
Like, that guy, his business is ruined. Like, most of his life is ruined. Like, everything that he had was probably in that store. And, like, it's gone. And we're not, like, I don't want to stop and see that necessarily in Spider-Man Homecoming. But especially when things are on such a large scale, to go back and to finally be like, look, the Hulk, every time he jumped from building to building, he dropped a pile of rubble on, like, children.
The cameraman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a school bus was crushed by the
Or like
rubble.
when Captain America shoots down the 3 giant helicarriers and they're like falling on people.
Yeah. Like the old
Yeah.
lady that goes to there to feed the ducks at the water. Like, she fucking died.
To be fair though, with that one, like, he saved so many lives. Like,
No, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And that's kind of his point, you know? So during the Ross briefing, they show someone in not Sokovia, what was it? Lagos. They show like a dead black girl with her eye open.
Yeah.
That was pretty graphic.
yeah.
And that's why I think that there was more footage there of
Are you
of,
sure
like,
she was
people's eyes.
dead? She wasn't just like.
I mean, she's not blinking, she's not moving, and she's surrounded by fire from an explosion.
Maybe she's dead.
But that to me is like, that's why I think that there was other footage that they decided not to show in that moment because it was like a lot, and then they were going to show you it later too. So I feel like we got just enough there in that scene. Now, we talked about in the comics how Tony Stark teams up with villains. He teams up with villains in this too. General Ross is a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a bit different when he's the government, I'm going to say. Because from what I understand about the comics, he's like letting villains out of jail, like actual villains, like Shocker and stuff. And like, they're on his side. Now, I haven't read it. This is what I've heard.
Well,
the
in the
reason
comics,
is-
he's also Red Hulk. Right?
Yeah, no, General Ross is. But the reason is because the villains are like signing up to be regulated, like with their powers. They're signing up to like work. And so anyone who's like super powered and is signed up has the authority to capture anyone who's not signed up. So that's why, like, they're still out there fighting. But let's be real, it's also just a point to create conflict for the pages.
That's true. But anyways, like, what I was saying in this is, I don't think Ross is that unreasonable in this, to be completely honest with you.
No, I love everything he says.
I think he's brilliant. And the other thing is, like, imagine if we did have heroes like this. Imagine, like, if you're the Secretary of State. What the hell are you going to tell these people? They could kill you. They could kill everyone. Like, I'd be terrified.
Dude, not only would I want them to, like, be regulated, but it should be illegal to use your powers.
But doesn't it also kind of beg the question, though? Like, you're telling me Ross, as part of the government, doesn't realize that a little bit of collateral damage isn't acceptable for this? Like, think about it. Every single thing he shows them, when you weigh it, what happened versus what would have happened if they hadn't intervened, is so much better. New York City would have gotten nuked. Sokovia would have destroyed all life on Earth. Helicarriers would have executed thousands of people. Like, all these separate things.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if I was in the government, if I was in the government, these people were going around, I'd be like, you need to be part of the government. Because this is essentially private citizens that are just...
Yeah, like, it's vigilantism. It's illegal.
Yeah, but it's like, it's not vigilantism. It's essentially God. Really. Like, Iron Man could... Yeah, like, but even not vision, like, Iron Man, the technology he has, he could take over.
Yeah.
Hulk and Thor aren't here, but, like, Scarlet Witch, she could just go in and kill the president. Like,
I mean, yeah, Scarlet Witch has fucked up a lot of people in the comics, so I believe that. But
think of it like the mass shootings, right? The first 5 that happened were like, oh no. After that, people are like screaming for gun control, and then this is like a movie where it gets done basically, where the legislation actually goes through. I love that they made Incredible Hulk canon. I love that they brought Ross. I thought he was great. I love that this means that Liv Tyler is also canon. Now,
doesn't that also mean that Blonsky or whatever is canon as well?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, he's off. Oh well, they said that in Shield, I guess. And
now,
yeah,
one of my favorite parts of the scene is when they're showing the Lagos footage, and Cap sees that Scarlet Witch is like upset or disturbed. And he kind of just like is like, all right, that's enough. Like, he speaks up for the team. Like, I liked him in that role. Moving on, there's one scene here in this movie that I really like, kind of like to skip through. Literally just the one scene. Everything else I love, but and there's one that's like almost there, but it's the scene where Zemo crashes his car and then
it's boring,
and the guy drowns while his nose is out of or while his mouth is out of the water.
Easily like get out. But I think the reason it sucks is there's so much more important things happening, and it's a break to show us something that doesn't really get a payoff till later.
Yeah,
and,
he hasn't been introduced at all.
Yeah, and like the thing is, Zemo I think is actually quite an interesting villain, but the reality is I don't want to see what he's doing.
He was doing that to get the book, right? No, yes. Okay, so there was a scene where he wears the purple hood, the purple mask from the comics. Not like just like the comics, they upgraded it. It looks cool too. Like, I would have bought the figure. It's in the concept art. And he was going to like shoot up an airport or something. Something like that.
I kind of wanted to see him in that mask. Purely because I remember when we were going to go see this movie, like when we reviewed it the first time, we were all talking about how like Zemo was kind of a B character. He was kind of like not that important in the comics. But then he turns into like this extremely geniusly written character. He's like the only villain that actually wins besides Thanos, if you count that.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is they took that scene out of the airport attack because they wanted you to sympathize with him. And if they showed him doing like truly evil things, then you wouldn't. Which I agree with, but I would have like check out the concept art, like Google Zemo concept art. It's pretty cool. All right, War Machine. He has just terrible lines all over the place. Like in this one, he says he's talking to I think Cap or Sam, and he's talking about like people are mad at us. What the fuck? Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
I don't know what that was. Okay, anyway.
I remember the line, "Congratulations, Cap, you're a criminal now." That
No,
was
he's
kinda
like,
cringy.
he's basically saying everyone wants us, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, and you're just like, it's cool. Like, that's his line to somebody. Like, mocking their decision to, like, not sign. And I'm like, this is just a bad line. Which leads me to ask, what is his actual personality? Like, what's his thing? I don't get him. I just don't get him as a character. He's not a straight-laced soldier. He seems to be like a wannabe cool guy. The way he talks.
I remember that line you're
Boom.
talking about.
You
It's
looking
when
for
they're,
this?
It's when they're talking about the Accords right back at the Avengers HQ. Like when he's
Yeah.
saying like Ross has one Congressional Medal of Honor, which is one more than you have. Right? It's like that same scene.
Yeah. 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 I don't get what War Machine's personality is, and the rumors are that he's gonna have a hefty role in Endgame. Like, you're gonna get a lot of screen time from him.
Now, there were some lines of his that I think were good, but then they get ruined. It's almost like they're trying too hard to, like, tack something onto him. Like, I like at the end where he says, like, I've flown 132 combat missions. I would sign again if I wanted to because it had to be done. But then he, like, says something at the end of that. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah,
it kind of ruins it.
Yeah, he gets all dramatic. He like starts talking about that stuff, and then Stan Lee says Tony Stank, and he's like, "Yeah, it's Tony Stank."
Well,
Never
that-
gonna
no, that's
forget
okay.
that.
No, that it's something else. He says like, and I don't regret it, or at least I think I don't. It's something like that. Like it's just like I think that his character he should be played as the soldier. Like I like the idea that he's loyal to
That's
the government.
Captain America.
Yeah, but not in this. Captain America's he's the soldier who's fighting for good. Rhodey should be the soldier who's fighting for loyalty. Like he should side with Ross. He served in the U.S. military, and now the government says this. He should be backing it up, and he is. But
Isn't
I'm
he
saying,
still in the U.S. military? Like,
I don't even know anymore. But
because last time we
He's
saw
like-
him, because wasn't the last time we saw him really besides
No, he's
Age
an
of
Avenger.
Ultron?
No, Age of Ultron, he becomes an Avenger at the end.
Yeah.
but
I still don't get
what
what
I'm saying.
what the point of him is.
What I'm saying is his
Backup
role.
Iron Man?
So he is backup Iron Man, which sucks. But what he should be is he should be the soldier. He is here to support the government, which they kind of tried to do in Iron Man 3, but whatever. But like
I
he's
hated
here
him
to
in Iron Man
support-
3, man. Like, the Iron Patriot sucks.
He's here to support the government, and his thing should be like he's backing Tony on this, and this is kind of what they do in the movie, but with the lines they ruin him. He should be a straight shooting soldier. He's not here to talk about grand ideas or something. He's like, I'm here to defend the United States of America.
Kind of makes you wonder, though, what would happen if Terrence Howard never quit or never got fired.
I'm still
He'd
not
probably
on the
have a
Terrence
bigger
Howard-
role.
Howard train.
Like, can you imagine him in this movie instead of
Every time I see Don Cheadle, I picture Terrence Howard. I still think he's better.
Really?
I don't.
Even with his whole 1 + 1 = 3
I
shit?
mean, that's not part of the
no,
movie.
he's insane as a man.
Yeah, he's insane.
Like
I don't ever want to meet the guy or hang out with him. But I'm just saying, we
that begs
agreed
the
on
question.
this when we did Iron Man. Like, he had better stature, and he was just cooler.
That begs the question, though. If Don
I like
Cheadle
Don Cheadle
wasn't...
more.
If Don... I like Don Cheadle better, too, but Don Cheadle wasn't him, and it was still Terrence Howard. Can you imagine how that interview with Brie Larson would have gone if it was him instead?
Listen, I
Yeah.
started my own form of math. Be quiet.
That would have been something to watch.
'Cause
Okay.
he was already, like, throwing shade at her. Like, I want to see that now.
So, damn, we've already been talking for 50 minutes and we haven't even gotten out of the first act. They really put in the we need oversight aspect of this, like Tony's argument. They really lay that in. Caps becomes about Bucky, but at first he says something that's like incredibly true. He's like, what if there's somewhere we need to go and they don't let us?
Or they send us somewhere we shouldn't be, like that we don't think we. Yeah, and I agree with him. Like,
or we need to fight the people that are telling us where to go.
He almost agrees with Tony, though. Like, just barely.
Yeah, I love that scene. But
I listen to.
but like, you know, think about it. He just went through Hydra. like everything that Shield was turned out to be Hydra, and he fought that, and he did it independently. Why would he sign away anything, any freedoms? And then he's right. Like, you know, what if they send Captain America to go to like the Gulf War, where it's like, what is it really about again? Like, we're not sure, and like, what are we getting out of it? We're also not sure. Like, what if he should be able to say, no, I'm not doing that? Do you guys agree?
I agree.
I do agree, and that's what I think kind of makes this movie fantastic, because both points of view have real
Are valid,
merit
yeah.
to them. Yeah, and that's exactly why when they fight, it doesn't feel contrived.
Well,
it doesn't feel like, oh, they're just fighting over, like, oh, we should be good. No, we should be evil. Like, it feels like they're motivated for very specific reasons. And even later, when Captain America's motivation starts to change, I still understand why they're fighting.
So let's go back to breaking the fourth wall again. What other movie came out the same year as this?
Okay.
I don't remember.
Another hero versus hero film.
Batman
Was
v
it-
Superman?
was it-
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Superman.
Yeah.
Oh goody.
Now, like everything you just said, Emerson, you know, you said it perfectly. It's not contrived. The conflict is not contrived. Both points of view are valid. They actually took, here's the genius of it. They gave them, to see how many layers there are. They each have ideological differences. They each have personal motivations that conflict. And when they fight, it's for an objective. This is the genius in the writing. It's for an objective. It's not to see who wins. Now, I'm not specifically comparing it to Batman vs Superman, but it did come out in the same year, and it's the same concept of two heroes fighting. And you look at them, and it goes from ideologically, I feel like the differences are half there. You understand why Batman wants to fight Superman, because Earth is in danger. There's an alien on the planet. Batman's unwilling or incapable of understanding, you know, why Superman is there, and he wants to attack him. I get that. Superman, why does he want to fight Batman? Especially since he's so overpowered. Like, it doesn't
save,
really.
Martha.
Right. It's flimsy. And then the personal thing is, again, that's his. No. So the Martha thing, the mother thing, is the personal thing. Ideologically, he's like, I'm Superman and I'm showing up. And Batman's like, no, you can't be here. You're an alien. Batman's makes sense. Superman's.
Well, technically, wouldn't it be that Batman's breaking the laws, being a vigilante, and he's like branding people and killing people?
It makes sense because Batman is like out of his mind at that point. He's out of his mind and he's kind of lost. He's delusional with his crusade on Gotham. It's not working, you know, so he's getting more brutal. He lost friends and family or whatever. And the point is, like, Superman's not as strong. Here Iron Man and Cap are both like, they both got an argument. And then the personal thing, it was like Superman suddenly wants to fight Batman to save his mother. And then rather than just, it's not a good reason, because rather than just explaining it, it's like, you guys remember the scene where he walks up to each other in the rain and Superman's like, Bruce, please. And Batman's like, oh, I'm going to kill you. And he's like, you don't understand. And Batman's like, I understand. And Superman pushes him as hard as he can. Like, why would you do that? Here you have a similar situation with Bucky, because of course Bucky could just be like, it wasn't me. But he does try to say it. The problem is he can't prove it. And so that gets wrapped up well too. That's another layer of genius. And then, like I said, the finale, where they, not the finale, but when they fight, it's, the Marvel version has a conflict and objective. So Captain America is trying to get somewhere. Iron Man is trying to stop him from getting somewhere. It's different than like, let's fight to the death, because then you have to find a reason for them to stop that isn't death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You guys okay? Mm-hmm. And then Batman vs Superman, they don't have that reason. It is like, we're gonna fight to the death, and then we're just not suddenly because of a reason. Something comes up, and that's why that one just feels so cheap compared to this. Anyway, so you guys notice that Peggy didn't change her last name
Carter? Yeah.
when she got married, but she didn't change her last name. We're gonna see her in Endgame. Sharon's speech just to point out that this is the speech that Captain America says to Spider-Man in the comic, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the movie, Sharon says it to Cap, which is whatever. What did you guys think of Sharon as a love interest?
I think it's pretty okay. Not terrible. Not the worst thing that could have been there. But it is kind of awkward considering she's related to Cap's first love.
I think it's a bit weird.
It doesn't
but
work.
I don't think it really hasn't outstayed its welcome because it was literally like a few minutes and then we haven't heard anything about it since. And it plays off some nice humor. One of my favorite jokes in this is when after he kisses her, he like looks back at the car and like Winter Soldier and Falcon are both like nodding and he's got that look like, really?
I'll bet you that collection of scenes where he's like, it's that, and can you move your seat up? I'll bet you those two are like the main influence for why they want to do a buddy series between those two.
And then when he says, I hate you.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, remind me to talk about the comedy later. But as a love interest, I don't think it works. Like, she's a little awkward, and the movie even knows it. If she wasn't what's her name's niece, it would be better, I think.
It is kind of awkward though, a little bit more.
It didn't have to be her niece.
Considering her role in the comics and what she does, it is a little odd that.
What did she do again? She betrays him, right?
She kills Cap.
Yeah, but she's like brainwashed. Or
yeah, she's brainwashed, but she's the one that kills him.
Yeah. Well, remember that was on the table at one point. Will Cap die in this?
I mean, Crossbones played a lot bigger role in Civil War 2, and he just dies right in the front of the movie.
The reason like people got hyped on people dying is because in the comics, someone dies in the fight between the Avengers, and then Cap gets assassinated at the end when he turns himself in. So there was like 2 deaths on the table, which we ended up getting none. But so yeah,
four people die in Civil War, right? It's like
I don't
know. Besides the massive amount of people.
I don't remember. But okay, so one thing about Sharon is when they kiss, she's like, that was, and he's like, late. She's like, yeah, I know. Like, it's not
about time.
It's not wholesome. It's just kind of awkward. Now, what do we think about T'Challa's intro into the MCU?
I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it works great.
Did you guys think that it doesn't seem like they thought that his dad would ever return when they cast him? Because he's incredibly short, and like to depict him as a former Black Panther, like, I think his dad is a good actor and a good dad actor, but I just don't think they thought like this guy would show up in another movie.
I mean, you know what? It kind of makes sense. He seems very kingly, like very political official type person, and then when you see all the flashbacks in Black Panther, where he's taller and more muscular, like
yeah. Well, it's sort of a different
years
person
have
now.
passed. Makes sense. Yeah. Like, he's maybe a little shorter. He's given the role to T'Challa.
Now, what about that apartment fight where Black Panther appears?
I like it. I love it when he just turns around and tanks the bullets. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It also looks like it hurts too. Like the whole sequence before that, where Bucky's beating the shit out of the fucking.
So let's talk about that, because that's another one of the greatest action sequences in the MCU. My favorite part is how they manipulate their shield and arm. How the two of them like deal with it. Like Bucky uses it to block bullets. The hardest hit to me is when the SWAT soldiers stack up on the door and Bucky punches through the wall.
That's not the one that. That's not the one I think is the hardest one. I think it's when he takes the battering ram and he beats the guys with it.
Oh, yeah. But that one, because I love the timing of it. I mean, this movie has a lot of great action. A lot of great action. So does Winter Soldier. And the thing about that, though, is like Bucky said he's not going to kill people. Like, he definitely killed that guy. That's not a punch you get up from. He punched through a wall with a metal fist and like, damn,
like decked some dude. Yeah.
But I love that fight. I love like so much stuff happens when you really think back on it. Like they throw a flashbang in, they put the shield on it, they fall outside on the balcony, they fight their way back in, they go down the stairs. There's like a bunch of different stuff. He clips people, throws them over the railing. Bucky jumps down like 3 flights a couple different times. They're backing each other up. Captain America like throws a shield to block the weapon. Bucky pushes a guy or like some crap, like to save Cap or something. Like it's Captain America crushes the walkie-talkie. There's a lot in there. Then they get through that whole sequence with the speed running in the tunnel. Did you guys like that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it
I
shows
love
how
that.
powerful they are. It shows
Yeah.
that they're not people.
Well, it
Yeah,
shows
dude.
that Bucky, it's not just his arm. He's got like other
He runs as
strength.
fast as a car, faster than a. Oh, yeah. Oh no. Well, yeah. There's that.
But so like he's as strong as Captain America, it seems.
That's why I think it'd be really good for him to continue on the lineage like he did in the comics. Like Sebastian Stan is a great replacement for Captain America.
But what does this mean? Like I thought that super soldier serum could not be replicated.
Well, I mean, I don't think it technically could, but I think it's just a different
Well, they
variant.
did
of
it.
right?
But
It
Bucky
seems
seems
like
to
it.
have it. Like he seems to be as good.
Yeah, but the Captain America serum is like different. It like reacted differently, and then they had like different versions of it. Like they had that version of an experiment that they did with him. Then they had the other versions for the other Winter Soldiers where they went nuts.
They went nuts, yeah. But what's like how is Bucky less than Cap? Aside from the mental issues. Is he on par physically?
I mean, he never. I mean, okay, so he did get experimented on by Hydra, and Red Skull. I think he was dead by that time, but he did. He had that serum as well. You never know. He could have done something.
All right. So another one of my favorite scenes is when Cap almost signs the Accords, and it's because the acting is so good. The way they talk about Pepper, the way that they are friendly with each other, and then what does Tony say? The one line where he's like, "You and Wanda, blah blah blah," and then Cap is like, "What?" And to me, I'm not really with Cap on this. Like, I feel like he could have been more reasonable about Wanda being locked up.
They don't grant visas or they don't grant citizenships to weapons of mass destruction.
A great line, like everything in that. I gotta watch this again, but it's so good. Anyway, I feel like Cap could have been more reasonable. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, maybe.
But I also feel like, in a way, he didn't really like Tony saying one thing and then doing another.
I feel like he'd be more in the wrong. Like imagine if this movie played a little bit differently, where he did sign it right there and he agreed with Stark, and then when he sees what they're trying to do to Wanda Maximoff by like locking her up, he like rebels against it. But he's already signed, so that makes it even more illegal. Wouldn't that make a little bit more sense if he was rebelling against it when he's already agreed to it?
No,
I
he can't sign.
Yeah, if he signs, then he's a traitor. Like if he like chooses not to do it, it's better that he's standing against it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And I love what he says, like, hate to break up the set with the pens.
Yeah, that's a brilliant line. And what I love about that too is, and we've talked about this, is how he's ready to do it, and then when Stark reveals that Wanda is basically under house arrest, he's like, no, like you're doing these things that I will not tolerate. He didn't know it was there.
Right.
Yeah, like he didn't read the fine print.
So this is something that we never really got an answer to, unless I don't know the answer. But what did T'Challa's ring do to Bucky's arm?
Excuse me?
Oh yeah, I think it's just the vibranium interacting. It's never explained, but that's what I assumed it was.
And we never got any sort of explanation, like, from anybody. I'm trying to find it, and I remember the Russos being like, it'll be explained at some point, but I don't think so.
Did it do something to his arm? I must not have noticed that.
There's two different types of vibranium, Wakandan and Antarctic. Wakandan vibranium is the normal vibranium. If somebody says vibranium out of the blue, they mean Wakandan. Antarctic vibranium is a different isotope and has different properties. Instead of absorbing vibrations, it does the complete opposite. It will emit a very specific wavelength of vibrations that will tear down the molecular bonds of other metals, giving it the moniker antimetal.
It's interesting.
But that doesn't mean T'Challa has that. But okay, anyway. Another one of my favorite scenes of all the MCU is that helicopter That moment the blades come flying at the camera, every time I'm like, damn.
Yeah, that was insane.
Every time I see it. It should be said that I've seen this 6 times in theaters. Like when it
Six
came
times?
out.
Is that your
Damn.
record for MCU movie seen in theaters, or is it Infinity War?
I think I saw Infinity War 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm
Alright.
just trying to decide if I liked it. Okay. What do you guys think of this side plot with the Winter Soldier diversion? The red herring?
I thought it was. I think it was good for what they were working with.
To me it's a stroke of genius. Because when they tell you there are like 9 other Winter Soldiers, you're like, okay, that's a twist, but it's like a predictable twist. And it's like basically it's gonna lead us to a big fight, another fist fight of like 10 people. And so that I was 100% like I believe the movie when it's telling me this, and I know where this is going, and they're gonna like team up against these other idiots, and they're gonna win, and I'm sure there'll be some good action, but whatever. And then you get there, and it's something else entirely. Is that not a stroke of genius?
I
It
think
is a
it's
stroke of
absolutely a
genius.
stroke of genius. And as I was saying before, we're talking about the changing motivations. So when Cap finds out about this and he's like, oh shit, we need to stop this now, and he gathers his team, that's what I think is brilliant. Cap isn't gathering these people saying, okay, we're going to go fight Iron Man. He's gathering them because he's like, we need to go fight a bunch of Winter Soldiers. Okay?
Yeah.
And then Iron Man doesn't want to listen to Cap. He's like, I'm tired of your stories. I'm tired of your nonsense. You're coming in. And so I think it creates a motivation for them to have to fight and to bring together large groups of people.
Right. Right. Okay, so I did write in my notes about the comedy, and I wrote lack of stupid humor.
Yeah, I liked how this movie was a little bit more serious, and it didn't have all that.
But it has humor. It has a
It
lot
has
of humor.
good humor though. It has good humor. It doesn't have. It doesn't
good
have
humor.
Whedon humor in it.
Yeah, it has good humor. It's not like, oh, I dropped the thing I was trying to hand to you, like shit like that, where it's like just bumbling morons all the time. People are not acting stupid for the sake of being stupid. You know what I mean? Like,
It doesn't have any boom. You're looking for this.
yeah, like, I'm like, that's not funny. And then like nothing against Ant-Man, but like a lot of the humor in that movie is just like, here's the main character acting stupid or silly. Whereas in this one, like you said, Emerson, that the joke where Falcon won't move his seat up, it says a lot about the character relationship. It's very natural. And then they're both his friends, so when he kisses Sharon, they're both like, he doesn't kiss that many girls. That's kind of funny. Like, they're
Yeah.
like rooting for him and also kind of like teasing him a bit with their laugh. And so many other like, I don't know, like Black Panther, what are those? That type of shit. I'm not saying it's bad, but this is so much better.
I agree. I agree completely.
I'm trying to think any other jokes like the way Ant-Man is like, thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah, and I also really like when
Because he's nervous.
Spider-Man's webbing up Falcon.
Everybody has
and
a
Falcon
gimmick
goes,
now.
no, when Falcon goes, is this stuff coming out of you? It's
Yeah.
like it's funny.
That's another thing about when Spider-Man shows up and he's fighting Winter Soldier. It shows off his strength in that joke. You have a metal arm? That's awesome, dude. He holds back all his strength with one hand.
Yeah, it informs on the character or the character relationship. I realized from this movie, that's what humor is supposed to do. It's supposed to inform. Nothing is supposed to be wasted. There are no like jokes for the sake of jokes, which there are way too many in these other movies. Way too many jokes for the sake of jokes. But anyway, let's move on. So we meet Peter Parker. He says the responsibility thing, but not really.
Like
I'm okay with
dancing around it,
Yeah.
which I like.
I'm okay with it. We
I
don't
like
get his
how
origin.
I like how they didn't do the Uncle Ben thing again.
No origin. No like I got bit by a spider. Blah blah blah. None of that crap. What do you? I mean, Aunt May. I felt like she was great. Like the little we saw of her was fine. I thought Tom Holland was better here than in all of Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah. I think it's because he was in it for
I think
less.
he's good in Spider-Man: Homecoming. I think that what's
He
great
is.
about him here is that he's being introduced. That this is a difficult thing to do, to bring in this character that we know a lot about, but we also know nothing about this iteration. And he's likable. He's funny. He fits with the other people. He holds his own with the other actors. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't feel out of place.
Right.
And
right.
he teaches us about Tony, right? Tony shows the concern at the end of the fight. He's like, all right, you're done. You're out of here. Like, I like it. I really do.
Yep. The way his action is in the airport scene, yeah, I really like everything except maybe the suit. You know, the suit is CGI,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't look right. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too used to the old stuff, the real looking stuff, but. Okay, let's talk about the airport scene. The genius to this is that there are 3 parts to it. So you have the first part where they kind of clash and they're taking it easy. And so you see a lot of the power matchups, and that's fun, and it's not really going anywhere, but that's the point. So when you're watching it, you're kind of just excited to see all the various power matchups. And then this ends when Tony picks up Black Widow and he's like, is this the plan? And he's like, well, my plan was
Go easy
to go
on him.
easy. Do you want it? Should we change it up? That's the end of part 1. Part 2, or act 2, I guess you want to call it, is everything that leads up to Black Widow helping them escape. So there's a lot in it. There's just a lot. And we could go into detail, like whatever you guys want to talk about, go ahead. But like everyone knows that this scene is great. The way they've balanced all the characters together is a great sign for Infinity War. And they did do that well there too, with the battle on Titan especially. But I mean, I just felt like everything was well balanced. We saw a lot of great moments from pretty much every single character. Vision is made a fool of, and Black Panther does some cool stuff. Hawkeye gets some cool moments. Scarlet Witch gets cool moments. Iron Man, obviously. Captain America, Winter Soldier, Ant-Man, War Machine gets cool moments for once, finally. Black Widow does all right. I really like when Scarlet Witch throws her pretty hard into the thing, and she's like, you see it's kind of real for her, and she tells Clint he's pulling his punches, and because at that point I don't really believe when they're fighting. Do you guys believe it when Black Widow and Hawkeye are fighting?
Not
No,
really.
because you can even tell by the conversation. We're just like, we're still friends. It depends how hard you hit me. It's like, it's more just like, hey, we're having a disagreement, whatever.
Even before that though, can you really picture them coming to blows over
No.
it?
No,
Yeah,
they have too much history.
that was for the sake of the movie, but yeah. And then the third act is when Black Widow rolls on Iron Man's team, which I was okay with, because I guess her point of view is like, listen, he's not going to stop trying to go, and we might as well just stop fighting. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to stop fighting, which is help them leave. Is that what you guys thought what she did?
Yeah.
I thought it was more that she like started to realize that as time went on, like there was only one way this was going to end. Like if Black Panther caught Bucky, he was going to kill Bucky. Okay. And
Right.
Iron Man's not going to let that happen.
Right.
So she was like, I'm not letting these people die. So
Right.
bye.
Yeah. No. I thought that was great. So then we finally get the scene where Vision shoots down War Machine by accident. And it was a pretty slick move by Falcon to dodge it. What did you guys think about that?
I thought it was awesome because it's super cool because like up to that point nothing had really happened. Like yeah, it was cool. It was like kind of sad seeing people fight.
It was mostly Spider-Man doing a lot of the shit.
Yeah, but also it's like it was kind of like, oh, they fought and now like they're getting away, but it like there was no way they would leave because Iron Man's just going to follow them. So that was a convenient way and I think a great way to wrap up the fight in a serious manner, which makes the tone moving forward much more dark. And it also provides an end to it. And I love that Falcon dives too. It's like this moment where you see like they are all on the same team, really.
Yeah. They were almost like playing, and now someone got hurt. It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. Now I do have 2 criticisms about this. Number 1, as War Machine is flying dead stick, you know, the way he passes out, I know some people pass out peacefully, but usually in those scenarios, like you're there one moment and then your head just like snaps back and you're like your eyes roll back and you're gone.
I took
Yeah.
that more as he knew he couldn't do anything. He closed his eyes waiting for the impact.
No, he passed out.
He
I think.
definitely passed out.
Yeah, he passed out. So I wish they would have like done that a little, like give us a little more of a brutal pass out, because he basically just goes to sleep. He go like ever you thought that he closed his eyes, because he gently closes his eyes and he's like, oh, I'm asleep, but no, like it should have been like, whoa, he's gone, and you just see him like he's loose inside the helmet. The other thing is, when he lands, I feel like the shot doesn't linger enough to let you feel the true impact of the landing. It goes like boom, cut. Whereas I think it should have been like boom, and then you see Tony and Falcon hit the ground and come after him, and you see like he's not moving. Let it rest a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's one. That's just one. You know, it's very. I'm nitpicking the shit out of that, but it's just one thing that I would have liked to see changed a little bit. A couple more things about this airport scene before we move on. One line that just kills me, and not in a good way, every time, is when they're initially running Winter Soldier and Falcon in the tunnel or whatever, and then Spider-Man lands on the window, and Winter Soldier goes, "What the hell was that?"
Yeah, it's just weird.
It's such a poorly delivered line.
Yeah.
And you can't really blame him. It's a shit
And
line.
it's like meme worthy almost.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what was that? Like
Yeah. Every time it takes me right, I'm like, that's a guy running in front of a green screen and he's looking at nothing. What the hell was that? Like, poor guy. That's like actors, you know, sometimes those lines like that, like you have no control over what you're saying and the line is not good and there's not a good way to like make it real, and you're just kind of stuck with it. Another thing I loved is Spider-Man's spider sense, which we didn't really see too much of in Homecoming or even in Infinity War, really. But the way like he's fighting, he'll just be like, "Oh God," and duck, and like that thing hits him. You know, I love that.
That was another thing I liked about him. There was one line that made me laugh my ass off. Was, "Hey buddy, I think you dropped this," and then he slams it back at him.
Yeah, because it's so hard, right? It's amazing. I used to carry, like I saw this 6 times in the theater, but I've probably seen it a million times. I cut an edit of this movie, of my favorite parts of the movie, and I put it on my phone, and I used to watch it constantly, all the time.
Really?
Yeah, but it was on my old phone. I don't have it anymore. The other thing I like is when Spider-Man says Tony told him to go for Cap's legs.
Yeah.
I really like that line. Emerson, you remember when you guys used to attack me like I was outnumbered? And
Oh, yes.
the first I don't know 10 times I would always win against like 9 people.
Yeah.
And then like I don't remember, maybe you guys went for it first or maybe I told you, but the key to slowing someone
was getting
down,
your legs.
yeah, if you have numbers, commit someone to the legs and there's really nothing they can do. And because Cap is so effective like in the upper body hand-to-hand combat, but once you cut his mobility, it really changes his output. And so I just like, that's one reason I love that line. Giant Man, of course, was spoiled for me by Lego. What did you guys think?
I think
I
it
like
was
Giant
really
Man.
cool regardless.
Yeah, I think it was a great way to like put a big spectacle in a
Exclamation
fight
mark,
that already
yeah.
had a lot of spectacle.
It needed something else to put it into like God status.
And I love how
it
like
definitely
Vision
got
just
it.
straight up didn't give a shit. Like he
Yeah.
phased right through him. That's one of my favorite lines in the movie.
cannonballs
Something
him.
just flew in me.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Giant Man was great. Everyone like Jade loves that part where he's like, oh. She laughed every time she saw it.
The Star Wars reference.
That I'm not so hot on. But it's okay. I'll forgive that.
Have you ever,
I like the joke. The other line that I love is when after he becomes Giant Man, Tony's like, is anyone else hiding any shocking, fantastic abilities I would like to reveal? Because it is kind of like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
What were we going to say, Everett?
I think I've told you this like while we were talking on Xbox or something, but you ever hear that joke saying, if Star Wars is canon in this universe, you ever think Nick Fury watched The Phantom Menace and saw Mace Windu? I just was really confused.
Yeah, that's why I don't like that reference. Because let's say there's one episode in Far From Home where Tony's chilling in his hotel room and he's watching The Phantom Menace and Mace Windu's on the screen and Nick Fury comes in and it's like, I don't even want you to address it. And I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. Some people are, whatever. Another one of my favorite parts of the movie, moving on from the airport scene now, the raft. I love the raft.
Yeah, I love it too.
Not just the concept, but the scenes in here when they're all in the cells, the way they talk to him, where Hawkeye's like, the future man is here. He knows what's best for you.
The futurist is here.
Yeah, the futurist. He knows what's best for you, whether you like it or not. Like the way he mocks him. I love that. And they have their discussion. And then Ant-Man's like, yeah, Mr. Pym told me never trust the Stark.
What I really like about when Ant-Man mocks him and Iron Man says, who are you again? Like, what I think there is a nod to the fact that Ant-Man really hasn't earned the right to criticize him.
Yeah. No, true. And Tony, even though he's like sorry and is like, I wish this didn't happen, he's still got a little bit of edge with them.
Yeah, and he makes a good point. He does say to Clint, he's like, you knew you were breaking the law.
He's true.
You knew you had a family, and you decided to come back.
You didn't think you were going to lose is the thing.
Yeah.
You know, because you never lost before.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's not here to gloat, but he also isn't going to be like, oh my God, you guys were right. Like, he's like, sucks.
He doesn't talk to Scarlet Witch, does he?
No, but like that moment when he sees her on the camera, and you can tell he's like, this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, she's literally chained up. That's one thing the comic book doesn't do well. Because in the comic, Tony is the reason they're locked up like that. Whereas in this case, it sort of got away from him. Because he linked up with General Ross. And then he talks to Sam, and that's great. One of the scenes that made it into my final cut that I watched on my phone was when Tony says, give me a call, I like to watch the light blink. And then the way he like sort of respectfully nods to General Ross after the joke, that made it into my cut because I just like that moment so much. I really love Tony Stark in this film.
And that's saying something because he's pretty damn good in almost every film he's been in.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Like
he's head and shoulders above any other appearance in my opinion. Except maybe Infinity. I still put him above Infinity War in this, but it's close.
He's pretty damn good in Infinity War.
Yeah.
To be honest though, like he's just a great actor.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I can't envision anyone except Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark at this point.
Is this the best version of Hawkeye we've ever seen?
I mean, considering Hawkeye doesn't really do that much, yeah, I'd say so.
I agree. Well, he
this
does a
isn't
lot
the
here.
best version of a lot of
he
characters.
does a lot here.
Yeah.
This is like
That's
just
the
because,
Russo effect.
And the reason why is because this is a complicated problem that is not simple, and it's not just good versus evil.
Yeah.
It's good versus good versus evil.
So let's take a break for a moment and discuss. We're not going to discuss the leaks that came out in detail. I saw it. Emerson saw it. Everett, did you see it?
No, I saw like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
of it,
you saw a piece of it. I didn't watch the whole thing. I also skimmed it. Let's just say, Everett, I don't remember where you stand on this, but Emerson and I were not like blown away by what we saw.
Yeah, from what I saw, which I'm not going to say it because it'll spoil a lot of stuff for everybody, but what I saw, I was unpleasantly surprised with.
I would say disappointed for me.
Yeah.
And Emerson, what word would you describe it as?
I would describe it as just sad because it's the sense of like there was a magic to it and a hope beyond just like, oh, this is there was an expectation and it went a different way.
So first of all, for people wondering what the hell we're talking about, I'm just going to say that 99% of people are going to love what we're saying we were not happy with.
And I think, and I still stand by this, I think I'm going to enjoy the movie. I really do. And
Right.
I think I'm going to say, hey, it was a good movie. But what makes me sad is that, like, hear how we're talking about Civil War. Hear the things we're saying about it. I wanted Endgame to be like that.
Okay, so that's why I brought this up. Because when they told me the Russos were going to do Infinity War, I was expecting Civil War, but better, but bigger. And I was disappointed.
Now, see, I wasn't. I liked Infinity War, but I was looking at it as like setting up the second part, and that's the reason I was holding on. You had already been like, this is suspect, this is questionable. I was still riding that like high, like no,
Right.
you'll see. And then the leaks came out, and I was like, well,
Well, so my point is that the reason is because of this movie, the way that they basically exceeded my expectation in every single way. I was expecting similar in Infinity War, and I didn't get it. You were looking at Infinity War as its own thing, plus Endgame, whereas I'm looking at it as Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, and we took a dive in quality from Civil War in Infinity War, in my opinion. So I don't really know what to expect in Endgame, but I don't think it beats Civil War, in my opinion, so far. Like I don't, from what I've seen, I don't think so. But so that remains to be seen. But I thought that was a good time to discuss that. Let's talk about the twist. So the Russos made a decision here where they're like 99% of the people watching are not going to remember that we already told them the twist in Winter Soldier with Bucky's parent, with Tony's parents.
I thought everyone knew it, and that's like I wasn't shocked when it was like he killed him. I assumed that. What shocked me, the surprise for me, was that Iron Man had never been told, kind of, you know? I kind of assumed it was like, oh, they knew off screen, something like that. But when I was like, oh shit, like when I realized what was going to happen, and it's a powerful moment because you feel bad for literally everyone.
Right.
And that's the beauty of
Right,
it.
right.
You get why Iron Man freaks out.
Right.
You understand why Tony's like, it wasn't him. And you understand why Winter Soldier's like, I'm sorry.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. So I like that they tell that Cap tells you that he already knew because he did. Like we can't pretend that it's a brand new twist. So I like that they did that, and that was like a good way to sort of play into the twist. But they made a decision to use the twist again, and I felt like it was the right decision. I think it strengthens the movie because you're still seeing it through Tony Stark's eyes, and that's still really powerful, as you said.
Yeah.
Now, Zemo's great in that scene.
He's amazing. That line he talks about, where he says, an empire conquered by its enemies can rise again, but one that is destroyed within is gone forever.
Yeah.
That's an amazing line.
Yeah. Yep. Now, this third act, to me, is better than the airport scene. Do you guys agree or not?
Yes, because the fight between them,
It's fucking brutal.
Not
It
to
is
mention,
brutal.
it has
It's
my
brutal, too.
absolute favorite part of the entire movie, and that's the recreation of the Civil War cover.
Oh, okay.
it is brutal. And what I think is amazing about it, too, is while I'm watching it, I almost don't want anyone to win.
I don't want it to end ever. I rewound it like 4 times.
No,
and
no,
just
it's
watched
not
it.
even just that I don't want it to end. I'm saying I don't want anyone to win because I will feel bad no matter who wins.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this moment of, like, utter agony. And what I think is during the airport fight, everyone's holding back. Everyone. Even when they get, like, nitty-gritty, they're still kind of holding back. We get to see them when they're actually trying to kill each other.
Yeah. So
I think didn't we see this movie in the theaters together?
yeah, we did, I think.
I think weren't we making bets on who was going to win?
I don't remember because I saw it before you guys saw it. I know that. Anyway, I'm gonna go through this like with my favorite pieces of it. But I want to point out like the way that they show damage in this, like the damage matters. For example, when Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch drop all those cars on Tony, then he's wearing a sling. Right? You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna see some of that in this final fight here. So right at the start of the fight, Tony gets Bucky on his back, and what you see is Tony puts the repulsor right in front of Bucky's head, and then Cap's shield hits Tony and moves the hand out of the way. It knocks the hand out of the way, but he was gonna blast Bucky in the head.
Yeah.
Like point blank. He was going to murder him right there in that moment. That it happened so quick, like you might miss it, but he's literally about to kill Bucky and Cap hits him off. Now, what happens when Cap knocks him loose? Tony stands up and does what to Cap? He goes for his legs. He ties his legs up.
Oh, you're right.
Is that not beautiful? That's when I say good fighting, like it doesn't have to be like literally hand-to-hand combat martial arts stuff. That is good fighting because we're getting a glimpse into how the character thinks. He's not doing inexplicable fighting things. Like it's not like John Wick where people are fighting for like 10 minutes and you don't really see the decision-making process. They're just like moving their arms and legs about in a bunch of ways, a bunch of different directions until eventually someone does like some decisive blow and that's it. Even in Infinity War with Thanos, like that fight against him and Hulk, you don't really see like Thanos think about what he's doing. You just see him suddenly like win. And it's like, okay, we get it that you beat the Hulk and that was cool, but ultimately, you know, there's nothing in it. It's hollow. Here, he goes for Cap's legs. And it's
okay, I don't mean to interject, but I don't think that's necessarily true in the fight with Hulk and Thanos. Like, I remember the way someone explained it to me was, think of it like a boxing match, just really, really sped up. Hulk wins the first one by, like, knocking Thanos into the wall, and then Thanos wins the next round by, he, like, goes for his ribs, he gets him out of power, and then he puts him down.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is, Thanos does things that doesn't make sense. Like if you're Thanos and you're like short and stocky and strong and you're fighting the Hulk who's bum rushing you, you don't like do knee strikes. It doesn't make any sense. It's basically just choreographed fluff is what I'm trying to say. Right. The fighting itself is not cerebral on any particular level other than they show Thanos like doing martial arts. Like that's the scene. Am I wrong? Is he not just doing martial arts?
No, you're right.
Which I still think is cool. I'm gonna say it. It's a cool.
It's cool,
scene.
But I'm not gonna give that an A. I'm gonna say that's a B. Like, it's cool, but it's not like I'm not writing home about.
Pass?
Huh?
You don't want to give it a pass?
No, I'm not. I'm not using our ratings. I'm just saying like if I was gonna like grade it.
I'm referencing something.
Yeah, I know. If I was just gonna grade it, to me it's not an A. Which here it's an A, and it's the same guys that made the movie. That's the thing. That's the part about Infinity War that cuts me so deeply. It's the same guys. Anyway, so we see Bucky destroy the repulsor in Tony's hand. I thought that was cool. Then later, Captain America catches Stark's leg and destroys the blaster on his foot. You guys remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Then later, Tony tries to fly, but he can't.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, he can, but it's like bad, right? Like that's cool. That is you're seeing things play out in a real way. It's not just hollow fluff action. I really like the part where Tony eyeballs the shot on the missile silo cover.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the 2v1 scene?
I think it's
where
cool.
they're like tag teaming him.
I think it's really cool. The thing I like about it...
Something about it is awkward, though.
Something is, but what I like about that scene more than anything is I think it's awesome that it shows that... Well, first of all, it's great that Iron Man's in the suit, because it means they can really, like, beat on him. And second of all, I really like that scene in general because it shows that Iron Man is a big threat. Like, they kind of need to work together to bring him down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do like that. Which then leads to my favorite part, which is Bucky pushing Iron Man against the wall, clutching his arc reactor, and then his arm getting blasted off.
That's epic.
The music, when I saw that in the theater, I was like, holy shit. Where was this scene in Infinity War? Where was what's the equivalent?
Hulk maybe, not Hulk. Thor coming down.
When Vision gets it ripped out of his head.
Yeah. Which one's better?
Probably this one.
I think this one, but it's close.
For me, it might be because Vision like dies in that.
Vision makes me cringe every time I see it.
Yeah,
But this one has
this one I'm like, holy shit.
You know what,
I think
though?
I have to give it to Vision, but they're different.
I'm
They
giving
are
it to
different.
this one because of the build-up. Because the build-up to
That's fair.
to
That's fair.
when Thanos is like covering people in dirt, I'm not interested in that. That's not good. The build-up here, like the battle, it's much better. Okay, the second scene, which I don't necessarily skip, but it's like a little bit of a drag, is the Zemo confession.
It is a drag. The best part of it for me is when Black Panther says, like, they're all consumed by vengeance, you and them. And then when Zemo tries to kill himself, first Zemo says, like, you seem like your father was a nice man and you seem like a dutiful son. I like that. And then I really like when Zemo tries to kill himself and Black Panther stops the bullet.
Yeah.
And he says, the living aren't done with you yet.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I like it. I just don't want to move away from the fight below them to watch it. But I was thinking about it. There's nowhere else to put that. You don't want, like, once Cap leaves with Bucky and leaves Iron Man there, you don't want to cut to like something else.
You're right. It would have done better at the end, essentially.
So so we go back. So then we have that superhero comic book cover moment, which is great. The part where it's like you can't beat him hand to hand. The way Cap punches, like, this is like we saw this in Daredevil season 3. When Daredevil is punching the bag, it looks like he's never punched a bag before in his life. Here, it looks like Captain America knows how to punch. Like, the rhythm looks aesthetically pleasing to me as someone who knows what it's supposed to look like. It's right. It's correct. I mean, his hands could be covering his face, if you want to get like super technical, but like the movement, it's from the hips. He's moving his shoulders. Like, everything's right. He's going side to side. He's not just pummeling, like, it's not. People who know how to fight choreograph that scene and trained him. And so I really appreciate it. And I like Cap's boxing style, but it's an interesting contrast to Iron Man's fighting style. I don't know about you guys, but I love when, even though I'm in favor of Cap and I prefer Cap's fighting style, when Tony's like, let's kick his ass.
Oh, yeah. And I also love how, like, he's not a fighter, but his technical aspect. He's like, analyze his fighting style.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay.
Well, I mean, that does cheapen it a little because it's not Tony doing it. It's like a computer algorithm.
That's what
but
I
you know
want
that Tony could
do.
never beat him in a direct fight.
I don't
want
Tony
like
to be...
His tech even says that, like, you can't beat him hand to hand.
Yeah. No, I agree. And then it's interesting the way Tony, like, uses his suit and it's fused into the hand-to-hand combat. Like, the way he uses his repulsor, and it's beautiful. Like, it's really, really good. It's like if I was Captain America and I was fighting Iron Man in that moment, everything Iron Man did would beat me because he's fighting me in a way that it doesn't make any sense to me. I've never fought anyone who can do stuff like that. Like, I've never been like knocked back and then shot in the stomach with a repulsor, like the timing of it is really, it's very, very well choreographed. People who understand fighting like created this. And so
it's kind of a shame, though, don't you think, that the last time we reviewed this movie, we didn't do fights of the week, so we've never done a fight of the week.
We never reviewed this one.
Yeah, we did. We did Civil War.
No.
Never?
No, this is part of our MCU rewatch. This is the last film in our MCU.
I could have sworn we did Civil War.
No, we didn't start because Civil War came out while we were in high school.
We started with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
And Civil War came out, I think, junior year.
Oh, okay.
I think it was senior year.
Damn,
maybe senior, but we were in high school.
I'm mistaken. Damn, all right.
Now, Cap beats him a little cheaply, but I'm okay with it. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, I just
how
think...
he like bashes him with his shield.
Well, no, because he turns around to kick Bucky and then he picks him up from behind.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that because, as I said, Cap shouldn't win this fight. Yeah. Like, if Iron Man really wanted to, like, kill them both.
Right.
Because even though Iron Man is fighting Cap for real, he doesn't want to kill Cap, like, really kill him. His goal is Bucky.
Right.
So, like, I'm okay with that. But that moment when Cap, like, takes his helmet off and brings the shield down, I'm like, oh, God. And, like, Iron Man puts his hands up. Like, jeez.
I love it. I love the music. This to me, out of everything we've seen, this is the best part. When they both stop, and it's Cap who chooses to stop, because I think Iron Man would have kept fighting. And the way, when Cap stops, it kind of snaps Tony. Tony's like, "What have I done?" Like he looks ashamed of himself. Like, how could it come to this? And I've been there. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I've been in physical altercations with people who I like hated in the moment, and then when it's over, it's like it feels good, but it also feels bad. Like, how did it get to this? You know?
Yeah.
And then, but at the same time, it's like, I'm glad I won, you know? But
Yeah.
still, like, what did we do? Like, what have we done to each other? You know? And this is why I think people should be not encouraged to fight, but taught to fight in schools as children, because violence is a part of human nature. It always has been. And, you know, we figured out that you can't teach abstinence as safe sex. Like, you have to actually teach them about sex to have for safe sex. But for some reason with violence, we say, like, no violence. Yet it's in every single one of us, the same way sex is. So, like, I just feel like people need to learn that release is important. You just don't want to get people hurt. So, like, teach every kid martial arts so that they have an outlet. Anyway, and the thing is, I'll say this. Every person I ever fought, whether it was, like, sanctioned or, like, in the street, I'm, like, friends with them. The ones that I, like, know. There's only, like, one person that I didn't know. But the rest of them I know. And I'm, like, really good friends with. Like, if I saw them right now, I'd give them a hug. And it's because we fought. Like, sometimes it just has to happen. And then there's a mutual respect. There's a way to become friends again. It might be, like... it might take time. Like, you don't seek each other out. But when you do see each other again, you guys are friends.
Well, that's because the people who fight, like, you fight them and they fight you back, like, it's almost like a very pure way of resolving differences, usually.
You ever
Yeah.
you ever hear that line from Matrix Reloaded? You don't truly know someone until you fight them.
No, I was about to say that. You literally don't. Because I may not know your favorite color or your favorite food, but I know what you're made of. And I know that I stood against you and you stood against me and I beat you and you wouldn't quit. Or maybe you did. Like, maybe you recognized that I was superior. And whatever it is, the fact that you fought me, I'm still like, okay, this guy is real. And you're looking at me like, this guy is real. And we have mutual respect. Like, that you can't fake. You know? We can't talk
Right.
that out. That's something that needs to be decided. You know? And there's only one way to do it. So I said all that to say that I think in Endgame, when these two guys see each other, personally, I don't think there's a lot needed to discuss, necessary to discuss.
There shouldn't be, no.
I think it's been done. It's done.
What I think the discussion should revolve around is shared loss, not what happened. Not what happened the last time they met each other. It should more be like Tony Cap's glad to see Tony, but Tony's basically like, we lost everyone.
Yeah, like if they see each other, let's just say Tony lands down on that ship in the Avengers facility.
Yeah.
If they see each other, I would expect at least a respectful nod between the two of them. But if it's probably more like, I'm so glad you're alive, because now there's like a whole new layer of like shit involved. But so I would expect them to hug in that scenario and really not discuss like, I'm sorry. Like,
No,
that
there
doesn't
should
need to
be
be
no,
said.
I'm sorry. What
Yeah.
should be said, and I'm saying this very clearly, it should be Tony as essentially just like, everyone's gone. Like, fuck our old conflict. Our old conflict, not only does it not matter, but like, we've lost.
Kind
Is
of makes you
essentially
wonder.
what it should be.
Kind of makes you wonder what's the state of the Accords after all this shit happens.
Well, we know there are Avengers. Yeah, you're right. Who knows? Because I think General Ross is gone, right?
Is he?
I think so. Three nights away from Endgame, guys.
Yeah,
I know.
man, Thursday night.
Okay. The best and final. As the movie goes, it just gets better and better. So he gets off of Tony, and Tony goes, "You don't deserve that shield. That doesn't belong to you."
My father made that shield.
That's
When-
an excellent line.
My father made that shield.
Not to mention the shot that shows up after he drops it is also phenomenal.
Jeez. Yes, when he drops it, but that scene where where Cap stops and Bucky's hanging off of him, and he drops the shield. That's my custom made phone case. The background is that moment where Cap's just like. I wish they would have lingered a little bit more on him before he drops the shield.
To show like the weight of what he's about to do, basically.
Or maybe space Tony's lines out a little more, because it comes very quickly. But man, I fucking love that scene.
It's amazing. And as I said,
what's the Infinity War equivalent
of that? Maybe when
snap.
people are the aftermath of the snap, where you see people disappearing, probably. Like, nothing really in that movie has that weight to it.
People disappearing.
But just like everything else we've been discussing in this movie, what makes it so great is the fact that in that moment, everything Tony's saying is real. He's still speaking from a point that is legitimate. And when Cap does it, you basically agree with both men in that moment. Again, because Cap's like, I'm choosing my friend. I don't care about this shield. Like, I'm sorry. And Tony is basically like, your friend killed the man who gave that to you. Your friend killed the man who made you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to me, a big sign of a good movie is a good epilogue. And by that, I mean, things need to kind of move forward at the end of the film. Like, if everyone sort of ends where, like, the action ends, there probably wasn't enough story. Like, here you see a lot of people move on. The epilogue is great. Tony, getting the cell phone, talking to War Machine, Cap taking his friends out of the raft. Like, I like all of that. How about you guys?
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal. And, like, the voiceover as it's happening, because it's bittersweet. And it lets you know that, like, there's not going to be Civil War 2, but they aren't together anymore. There's been a divide.
Right.
I like how the movie ends on Cap breaking them out of the raft, and you don't get to see it. You just assume what happens. Like, you don't have to see it. You know that.
And I didn't want to see it at that point in the movie. I'm good. Okay, that's all I have to say about this film. How about you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phenomenal movie.
So real quickly, review Roundup. I watched a documentary called Cradle of the Champions. It's about the Golden Gloves tournament in the New York State. So it's an amateur boxing tournament, and it's kind of cool because it's a live tournament, not live like you're seeing it, but like real people. You get to see it from start to finish. It follows 3 different fighters, 2 boys and 1 woman who's like in her own bracket. I thought the boxing was decent. The 2 main characters were kind of unlikable. Overall, I give this one a draw. I thought I would like it more, but since I watched it, I figured I'd review it. So if you see it, have a look at it. But otherwise, it's not something you have to see. Okay, so real quick about some news, because I know this episode's getting long. There's a new TV spot with Thanos talking. I'm going to listen to it real quick. It says, in 5 days, you see Valkyrie. He says, after I kill you,
Let me look at this.
I'm going to burn this annoying little planet to cinders. Guys.
One sec, I'm looking for it right now.
Hold on, what's it called?
I don't know. I don't know what it's called. It's just like TV spot. It's like a 30-second thing. So I'll just tell you, it's not footage. It's just like they're showing flashes of the character.
Is it the Thanos versus Captain America TV spot?
No, it's not. It's called Avengers 4 Endgame. Thanos tries to kill Iron Man, but it's not. It's one of those like compiled.
I just watched it. It's not bad. I like it.
Okay, I mean, it's not good or bad. It's just the point is he says after I kill you, I'm going to burn this annoying little planet to cinders. The reason I bring it up is because I hope that they sort of explain why he doesn't kill them all earlier. Mm-hmm. Because that is a huge problem for me for Infinity War. Huge. The fact that he allows them to continue to be pests. So he says, at least in this movie, it seems like he's going for the kill. So, that might appease me. Okay, real quick on gaming. So the PS5, and we should talk about this more another day because I don't have all the details, and I'd rather talk about Game of Thrones right now. But
yeah, plus there's a lot of gaming stuff we have to talk about eventually.
Yeah, we'll save it up. We'll do it another time. We'll do it after Endgame. But basically, PS5 has been announced. They said that the price point will be very, interesting, excitable.
Okay.
Well, they're gonna sell it for $299.
I don't know, but the thing is, Xbox One Digital was also announced, which is basically a digital-only version, right? Do you guys know anything about this?
It's the
Not
Xbox
really.
One S without a disc drive.
And that's the only difference?
Yeah.
So
And
you
it's
can't
cheaper.
play
It's
physical discs?
significantly cheaper. No.
Well, how much cheaper?
Let me look, but it was I was seeing I think 200 maybe.
I think
That
it was
wouldn't be that bad. I mean,
think it was
I only own
$250.
one Xbox game on disc, and we never play it anymore anyway.
yeah, but well, see, I have Rock Band.
Yeah, it's
I was playing Rock
$250.
Band today.
It's
okay.
It also comes with 1 terabyte of storage.
Okay, but there's a version of the Xbox out right now that's only 200, isn't there?
Right, but it doesn't come. That's the original Xbox. This is the S. This is the S with 1 terabyte of storage.
So that's
Why
the
is the
white
S
version.
better?
The
It's-
S is superior graphics, superior engine. The S is the upgrade of the normal. The
It's
S is
smaller and lighter.
and it's also got better graphics, better everything. And then the X builds on that.
Okay, but
That's the one. That's the Xbox I used before my house burned down. I thought it was great. It worked perfectly.
the 11-year-old kid asking for a gaming console doesn't know any of this.
I mean, you asked what the difference is.
I know. I'm just saying, I don't think they're gonna do well. Not with this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel
I
like
think-
PS4 is probably going to outwin this one, considering I know a lot of people that sell their Xboxes to use as DVD players, and families that have Xboxes use that for movie night. I feel like if you remove that and you do everything digitally, that kind of cuts off a main portion of your viewers and users, right?
I agree. I don't know. This isn't good for Xbox, if you ask me. Digital only. A lot of people don't buy digital games. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, that's why GameStop and stuff still exists.
A lot of people
my
age-
games a lot.
It's moving on the way out. This is a shift that we're seeing across Google's new thing.
I agree,
right?
but Xbox might still be a casualty to it.
That's why they still have all the Xbox is trying to move towards a family where it's buy what you want for what you want to do. So the hardcore gamer who only downloads games is going to be oh, this is great because I can buy. Well, some gamers. This is great because I can get this without a disk drive for cheaper with a lot of storage and fantastic. Then the family is going to use the normal Xbox One. Then someone who really likes 4K is going to grab the Xbox One X. It's they're provide. It's a. We talked about this briefly, I think, on maybe Hellboy, but it's they're moving towards almost a computer model where it's oh, buy the model for what you're gonna do.
I mean, essentially, an Xbox is just a PC anyway.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
Well,
a simple one.
the best thing going for Xbox right now, which strangely enough we have nothing to do with, is Game Pass.
I have Game Pass.
And backwards compatibility.
That too. But here's the thing. So people my age and older are buying physical. They're still used to going and buying games in the store mostly. And then a lot of the younger kids are scrambling for games, so they're constantly getting ripped off by GameStop by turning in their used stuff. They're not buying digital because you have to get your parents' credit card to do that.
I mean, I feel like digital would be a lot easier because if you're think of it now, you're a 14-year-old kid, you get an Xbox, you make an account. You don't do what I do, where you set your real age and they don't let you buy M-rated games until you turn 18.
But that's if your
It's-
parents aren't really paying attention.
Yeah, but I feel like it'd be easier to manipulate that than to go to GameStop and have them look at you and say, you can't buy this. You're not old enough, obviously.
That's a fair point. But I mean, I still had to beg my parents. Like, I was begging my parents for every game for myself until I was maybe 14, where I would like walk to the mall and buy it myself. But I don't see people buying Xbox for that reason.
I mean, what reason do people buy Xbox? Think of it like right now. Like, what are the exclusives? What are that kind of stuff? Like,
Nothing.
Halo's kind of gone out the door, and that was their selling point.
If you like the Xbox One X's power, that's about it. But
I
even then,
agree.
you have to invest in a 4K TV.
Or if you don't care about the single player games.
I mean, I have a
Yeah,
PS4,
but
but I only use that for
but you could
Destroy All
play-
Humans and Spider-Man.
You could play all the multiplayer games on PS4.
The thing is, I hate the PS4 controller. I fucking despise
but
it.
the majority love it. I hate
Not
it too. But
not
the
to
majority
mention the
love it.
party
despise it.
interface is kind of shitty too.
No one cares.
I
They
think
don't care.
Xbox has a better UI and like better controller, and also the thing is like all my friends are on Xbox. Everything. Also,
But
the
that's
amount
your
of money,
generation. Now all the kids are on PS4.
I mean, yeah, but that's why I'm saying I don't care because like I don't want to go play with Jimmy. I want to play with my friends, right? And also like the amount of money that I have in games on my Xbox to buy a PS4 and like, oh well, now I'm gonna play this. It's like, it's not worth it for me.
Yeah,
but
I'm
no,
just-
I
Probably
agree
not,
with
yeah.
your point.
Long
about how-
term.
well, the thing is, long term, Xbox seems to be trying to go for like the quantitative edge. Also, like, they're doing a lot of stuff with streaming between computer and Xbox now to try to like encapsulate the PC gaming market.
I mean, yeah, you can definitely see where Xbox is kind of struggling there, because they're starting to branch off. They're starting to let all the Halo games be on PC. They're starting to like mix the two. Like, you want to have a PC, you can integrate your Xbox to that really easily. They're starting to put their UI and their software
Yeah,
on other game systems. Like, they have that
Exactly.
deal with the Switch right now, where they're going to put Xbox on
They're
Switch.
trying to make themselves, and also like a lot of the new streaming features, it's getting to the point where you can just play Xbox on your computer almost without an Xbox.
Like, also, Kia, you have to understand that, like, you say our generation, think back like maybe like 7 to 8 years when it was PS3 and Xbox 360. Xbox 360 was like the king of gaming besides PC. The UI was much better. Party systems worked great. It had a really great runtime. The only bad thing really was the console was loud. PS3 had all the same stuff, but there were no exclusives except for a few games. No deals with like DLCs and stuff. And the party system, you couldn't really play with anybody. You
Right,
could like do
and now-
one-on-one chats. Now it's
shifting
fixed.
to PS4, and eventually it'll shift back to Xbox, and so the cycle continues.
Yeah, but also like we chose Xbox because it helped us play like with our friends better and stuff. And now we're still in that situation where we still use Xbox. We don't want to switch to PS4 because we have hundreds of dollars invested in this over years. So
Yeah, and the new people will buy PS4s, get hundreds of dollars invested in that, and not want to switch to Xbox. But then it's also worth noting, Microsoft has its own studios. Like, they have things that are supposedly being worked on. Whether we see something, we're going to have to wait. But, I mean, if there's a brain at the top of Microsoft, they will have their own studios working on a slew of exclusives. Or, which would be much better, is just make everything cross-platform. They'll never do that, but that would be the most consumer-friendly solution.
Xbox would be lucky to get that.
I was reading
Xbox
something
would
like,
do better with it.
They need it more
With
than
the-
PlayStation needs them.
Yeah, but you know what? Xbox would do it better justice because it's more powerful. The Xbox One X, you could make a
For now,
different
yeah.
breed of game for that.
Yeah. But in 10 years, is Xbox still on the market, you think?
Oh, yes, of course. I think you underestimate the amount of money, power, and influence that Microsoft has. And I also think in 10 years, it could easily have
Why
been
don't they have
flipped
good
again.
games?
well, I think of it this
Because-
way. You're dealing with Microsoft and Sony. Sony does PlayStation, Microsoft does Xbox. Sony has a lot of good stuff now. Like, Spider-Man is their powerhouse. God of War is great. Last of Us is great. Those are like centralized things, though. They can't go forever, just like Microsoft's Halo can't go forever and Forza can't go forever. But so Sony has that, and they have other divisions in their company. But Microsoft also has the PC crowd. If you have a PC, you are running a slew of Microsoft stuff. So they could easily integrate that to make Xbox more viable. They have a lot more options.
To your, like, why aren't they bringing out the single-player games? Because I think that at the point they were focused more on just developing the console and looking at Game Pass and backwards compatibility. Because I think they're marketing it more as, like, an entertainment system as well. The UI, the slew of apps, the connectability. I think they're moving the Xbox towards home entertainment, and now they're saying, okay, we're gonna have to start putting out more exclusives. And they had exclusives for a while. The problem is their exclusives stopped doing as well. Halo used to be the flagship, and
Halo hasn't been good since Halo 1.
I think Halo.
In your opinion, it hasn't been good since Reach. In my opinion,
you old people with your before.
Yeah, but you guys were kids. You ate up anything they gave you.
Yeah, but you know what? Halo Reach was a fantastic game. I hated Halo 2. Well, Halo 2 was okay. I hated Halo 4. Halo 3 was good. Halo Reach was good.
I mean, take it from me. I'm the biggest Halo fan you'll ever see, and even I hate 4 and 5 and all the other ones that just recently came out.
Yeah, and so the thing is, like, that was the flagship. Whether, like, you say it's the best or not, Halo was their flagship series. It is now widely accepted that it's shit. Like, modern Halo people are like, who cares? Halo Infinite, do any of us even seem to care?
I care. They seem to be developing that right, but I don't have high hopes starting out.
Okay, so it's like, whatever. But the point is, they had these flagships, they fell apart, and then they're like, okay, they kind of leaned on the multiplayer aspect. It doesn't seem to be working out, so now it's time to move over. The thing is, Microsoft has the resources to keep Xbox going for a long time, and with these consoles, you know, they've put enough money into it and enough money into the services that they're making a profit.
I mean, like, we had this conversation a long time ago about when we were discussing Spider-Man on the PS4. You were saying, like, Spider-Man won PS4 the console war at the moment. And while I sort of agree with you that a lot of people are pandering to them because of that, that kind of thing does not last forever. And I feel like there's always going to be a lot of people that play both systems.
Aside from the people that play in our group, who else, like, just has an Xbox and is like, yeah, I love Xbox?
I mean, there's a ton of people my age out here who just have Xboxes and they play them on Xbox. But as I said, their primary thing is they don't just, like, they do a ton of stuff on Xbox. But that's people of my generation who are older, who grew up with the Xbox, and that's just what they have. The thing is, I'm sure you're right that there's a ton of people who have PS4s. The thing is, I don't know them.
Like, 6 years ago, there was, like, a massive split. Like, we used to play with, like, 6 or more other people that we know. And when it was 360 and PS3, we all played Xbox 360. But when it switched from Xbox One and PS4, a whole bunch of people split off in different directions. Like, our group right now, we all went to Xbox One. But all the other people we used to talk to and play with, a majority of them went to PS4 because they wanted other stuff from there.
Of all the kids on the team that I coach, I'd say 2 out of maybe 15 that play video games have Xbox.
And the rest have PS4s?
Yeah.
Have you ever asked them why?
Because they say it's better.
But, like, how? How
they say
how
it's better. Kia, they say it's better in the same way a kid today says that Black Ops 4 is the best Call of Duty, or I say that Modern Warfare 2 is the best Call of Duty, or you say Call of Duty 1 was the best Call of Duty.
You're working with what you have when you're given it.
But when I was in high school, the numbers were a lot more split with Xbox 360 and PS3.
But that's because, like, when you were in high school,
it's not split right now.
But when you were in high school, it was like 360, right? 360 was the main thing. Like, it had just come out. Like, that's like our version of Xbox One and PS4.
And it was outselling massively 360, but now it's swung back the other side. And
the 360 was outselling the PS3?
Yeah, the 360 beat the PS3.
Yeah, because when original Xbox launched, like, I keep bringing it back to Halo, it launched with original Halo, which redefined online shooters. 360 launched with Halo 3.
There was no online in Halo 1.
Oh, yes, there was.
No, there wasn't.
There was.
How old were you, Everett?
Halo 1 was the first video game I ever played and I ever beat on original Xbox. And I
You
remember...
did not play it online.
Well, no, I didn't play it online, but I do remember... Hear me out. I never played it online, but I know that was a massive selling point. That's when Xbox
No,
Live
it
was...
wasn't. You weren't there. I'm telling you, it was
computer
not
version
online.
of Combat Evolved was the only one to offer official online multiplayer.
And it
support.
didn't come out right away.
Online
Then maybe
multiplayer
I'm
didn't
thinking of
become
Halo
standard
2
in the series
because
console
I
versions
vaguely
until
remember
Halo 2.
them doing a lot of that's like when Xbox Live was introduced, when they gave you like a package and you had to like plug it into the Xbox.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Halo 2.
But it wasn't, it wasn't Halo 1.
All right, maybe it was Halo 2. But my point is it was that for original Xbox. 360 launched for Halo 3. Those were
Xbox
like
360 had 28 million sales, while PS3 had 20 million sales.
28 million? Yeah, but what year did PS3 come out?
Let's look right now. 2006.
And Xbox 360?
Let's find out.
it had to have been around the same time.
2005.
Xbox 360 came out in 2005?
Yeah.
That might be why.
No, the Xbox 360 was better than the PS3, even though it came out before.
Yeah, but no
It had a lot of problems,
no one my
though,
age
like-
even knew what that meant.
I mean, like, I don't know, like, the side of Sony, but I know Microsoft had a lot of problems with 360.
Also, Microsoft owns the Wii? What?
Not to mention, Microsoft also they kind of set the bar for what the gaming systems are right now. Like, you know, like, they were one of the only developers to make you pay for online. If you bought a PS3, you got online for free. And then it eventually, like, they took that, like, hey, we have to do that now, and Sony, like, jumped ship with that.
Yeah, and then they also were the first console that made you buy a Kinect and tanked all their sales.
I never bought a Kinect.
I never
Actually, no,
bought a Kinect
scratch that. When I got my first Xbox One, it came with a Kinect, but I never used it because I remember they had that massive thing where they're like, "Hey,"
But that's not the point, though. You
it's
paid
gonna be
the
on
extra
all the time.
100.
No, I didn't pay the extra 100. I got it on sale, but
Either
still,
way, the point is it was on sale because people weren't buying it. They all bought PS4 instead.
I agree with you.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the only reason, because of the Kinect at the beginning. When it first came out, there was like, okay, this one's 400, this one's 500. Everyone bought 400.
Not
which was
to mention-
PS4.
There was also the fact that the Kinect just seemed like a fucking weird gimmick.
Not to mention, you were basically
I
paying
like it.
$200 for a shitty webcam.
It was 100.
Okay. Also, 360s had a lot of like system problems. Remember Red Rings? Remember when those were a thing?
Red Rings. of
PS4
Death.
had their own thing. The
Yeah,
yellow
but
ring.
Anyways,
happened
I
a
think
lot
I
more
think
frequently.
we've beaten this horse to death. I think we can agree that right now, amongst the new and up and coming gamers, PS4 is superior. I also think in popular culture, because of the exclusives. Like, how many times do you hear about fucking God of War, fucking
Spider-Man,
Horizon Zero Dawn?
They got all the Call of
Spider-Man.
Duty exclusives. They
There's
got
a new
Destiny
zombie
stuff.
game coming out that looks like World War Z but single player. Days Gone. The Forest, which is literally the only thing I've seen on PS4 that makes me interested in it. But
I'm looking at the list of stuff like the exclusives for Xbox. They don't really seem that much better at all. Like, you have Sunset Overdrive and Halo, Forza, Gears of War 4.
yeah, we just spent a while discussing this.
But I'm saying, like, it looks a lot worse now than it seemed like years ago.
I don't
this is-
really remember it being known for its exclusives other than Halo.
That's why I
Well,
keep saying Halo was the flagship.
Did PS3 have any like good exclusives? Like,
It
really
wasn't-
good
I
exclusives?
don't
wasn't
think we
really-
cared as much about exclusives.
It
back
was
then.
split. Like people either bought one or the other. It wasn't really like, it wasn't one-sided like it is now.
Yeah.
PS4 was like more European to me, or like
Yeah, FIFA.
Asian and European, and Xbox was pretty domestic to me. It seemed like, and now PS4 is like taking over North America too. All right, let's take us into spoilers for episode 2 of Game of Thrones, Everett.
All right. So this episode kind of took an odd stance for me, because from what they hyped it up from last week, all the trailers thought that this was going to be the Siege of Winterfell. It did not turn out to be that way. This was sort of like I don't know how to explain it. Like, They kind of just it was all Winterfell. There were no King's Landing scenes, nothing with Cersei, nothing with that. It was all Winterfell, and they did a lot of plot development. They did a lot of exposition, but I feel like it worked. I'm really nervous about this episode. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, I give it a win if I had to give it a rating, but it makes me nervous because they spent the entire episode with every single group of people in Winterfell. You were with Daenerys and Jon for a little bit. You were with all the people sitting around the chairs, like drinking. You had Brienne become a knight. All these separate things, all these separate people. You had the stuff with Arya. It really makes me nervous because when they do that and they give everybody specific character development and they're like, it's our last night, that means there are going to be a lot of deaths in the next episode, I think.
Yeah. So, like you said, I would disagree that there's plot development. There's almost no plot development, if you ask me. I would even say it's not even character development. This episode is basically a chance for us to say goodbye to these characters.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really terrifying.
It is. And I realized, like, maybe 10 minutes in that I'm like, we're not going to see the battle this time, which in a way is a very smart move. But what it does is it makes me consider, what are we going to see? Because it's only 6 episodes, so 2 are gone. So we only have 4 left. So you kind of wonder like how they're going to do 6 episodes, and now that we know what 2 of them are, we go, okay, episode 3 is going to be the battle for Winterfell,
which means probably like either they're going to defeat the Night King next episode, or they're going to do it within the next 2 episodes. I guarantee it.
Well, yeah, because there's only like,
yeah, I know, I know how shitty that sounds the way I put it, but it's moving really fast, like, which means like they have to kill a lot of people next one.
I mean, this is really it. We're after next week, we're halfway done.
I know.
So I expect that we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see the survivors of this go to King's Landing.
Yeah.
And
so Winterfell, you think, is just gonna be gone?
I think so. Just looking at it structurally, I don't see how they're gonna do this, but. To me, Emerson, this episode was basically like if you had Infinity War, but then you spent an hour before the battle just like hanging out with the characters. They're having character moments. A lot of them is just like, a lot of them are having resolutions. Like they're not developing. It's not the arc. It's just like Brienne of Tarth, she gets knighted. And that's like a big deal because she's a woman. So they knight her. It's not really a character development. It's not really her arc. It's more just like...
It's just like preparation.
Well, like that, it was like doing the relationship between her and Jaime Lannister.
Like Jaime Lannister kind of owes her, and he like... They're there together, and they're just like, all right, let's do this right now. You deserve it, whatever. And then you see the same with Arya. She has sex with Gendry, which I called immediately. As soon as she like... I mean, they kind of telegraph it. She's like checking him out, whatever. When she first goes to meet him early in the episode, and I was like, is she gonna have sex with him? And then when it's like the night before, and they're waiting for the White Walkers to show up, like she has sex with him, and it's not really like, I wouldn't call it character development. It doesn't feel like that. It's just more like everybody's gonna get this moment, and then the chips are gonna fall.
Yeah,
I love it.
I love it too, but. It's the kind of love where you love seeing it now, but then when everyone dies, it's just going to get a lot worse.
When this series is over, this episode will probably be one of the best.
Yeah.
In hindsight, but for right now, I think it bothered some people probably because you're waiting for the big battle, and they basically tease it throughout the first episode. You know that something's going to happen, and then they tell you it's going to be here at Winterfell. And then
the fact that like they take the time to get you to care about these people just so that you can watch them all die brutally.
This is a great contrast to the MCU because I have full faith that something bad is going to happen. Like I really truly feel it in my bones that some of the people I'm watching are not going to be here next week. And with the MCU, it's just like, there's a very real chance that no one will die in Endgame. You guys realize that?
Yeah.
100% aces.
Yeah, like that's freaky.
Emerson, you still here?
And what's
Yes, I'm here.
and what's even worse is if you think about like this is only in Winterfell. Wait till all this shit is done with and they have to deal with Cersei.
I mean, this is the place where all the characters I like are. So, I mean, only it's just Cersei at Cersei in the Mountain. Who else is at King's Landing?
You're on Greyjoy. You got the whatever the Hand of the King is.
Who is the
you
Hand?
got you,
I forget.
He's like the weird guy. I forget.
He's a
the guy that
Caven Lannisters, something like that.
he's the guy that brought
Kavan?
back the mountain. I forgot his name.
Oh,
you
the
got
Maester.
Bronn.
The Maester.
You got Bronn still.
Oh, yeah,
like,
Bronn.
what happened to him?
Yeah, I like Bronn. Bronn of what's his name?
Bronn of the Blackwater.
Is it Bronn of the Blackwater?
Yeah, that was like his title.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah. I'm not that. How are they gonna play this? Because I'm surprised the Winterfell thing happens so early, even though they've basically stalled it for 2 episodes. You get rid of Winterfell, that's like the meat of your best characters.
I mean, if you have true faith in it, then you just got to imagine what they have in store if this is where they're taking it.
Some will definitely die. Some will definitely survive.
Like, Jon Snow and Daenerys are definitely going to live. Although I am a little hesitant about Jon Snow living or Daenerys living with the fact that he told her his true lineage this episode.
One of them's not making it out.
Yeah, one of them's definitely going to die, but I don't think they're going to die next episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, so let's just say like half. But the problem is the army's diminished too. So they're going to have to fight Cersei after.
Mm-hmm.
And if they fight Cersei after, they'll probably lose again. And then they'll be like taken captive by Cersei. And then she will have to probably release them to fight, to get help fighting the White Walkers. And at that moment, I don't really see how they could win. But if they kill the Night King, so what do you think? Is Bran gonna die?
Well, I feel like they lose a massive edge if he dies, and they're basing it around.
But he's the bait for the Night King. So if you know what I'm saying.
How shitty would it be if he's like, they're baiting him and they don't know that. Well, I guess they know that the dragon's on their side. But what if he's like waiting there and their whole plan's going like according to plan, and then Night King just shows up on his dragon, just roasts him, like doesn't even like do it ceremoniously, he just kills him immediately. That fucks everything over.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're using Bran to bait the Night King, and I don't think the Night King is going to die.
I think what's his face, the Ironborn, I forget his name.
Theon.
Yeah, I think Theon's definitely going to die.
Oh yeah, he's done. Him. He's done for sure. What do you think about? Do you think they could win?
With that many White Walkers, no. I feel like the only way they could win is if most of their army dies. They manage to kill the Night King. The dragons definitely have to die somehow.
If they kill the Night King, they win.
But there's no way the Night King's going to expose himself like that.
Well,
I'll bet you they get close. Bran. I'll bet you they get close. Bran either dies or something gets fucked up, and then they have to retreat. But even if they retreat, they still die because those White Walkers are going to outrun them.
But if they retreat, they also lose all their dragon glass.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That's why I think maybe they're going to win. And if they win, then they're depleted against Cersei. They won, but they're depleted. You still have a lot of conflict there for 3 more episodes. I think that's how it's going to go. I think they're going to win.
I mean, what if the battle doesn't take place at King's Landing, at the final battle between the 2 armies? What if you're right?
It will. For sure
what if you're right, they win, and then they're depleted, and then her army shows up and tries to invade Winterfell?
Yeah. No, they won't do 2 battles at Winterfell. It's going to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
But okay, Everett, which one are you more hyped for, next week's battle or Endgame?
Ooh, it's probably tied. Game of Thrones probably has a little bit more hype.
Pick.
Game of Thrones has a little bit more hype. Right, Game of Thrones definitely a little bit more hype.
Game of Thrones.
A little bit more hype.
Yeah, Emerson?
I don't really care about Game of Thrones.
Tell me, man, you'd love it if you watched it.
No, I don't. I think I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I think that like it's been hyped up so much for me that like it makes me not want to watch it.
This
I'm
is
gonna
the
be
kind of
honest.
series though. Like even after it's over, I'm gonna
That's
go back
a-
and binge watch it all
No,
over.
that's
again.
like a
that's
real thing though. It's like it's when you hear about something for so long, it's like, I'm not gonna care.
Yeah, it's a
until I
real
decide
thing
to-
if you watch it and then you go, "Oh, it was hyped up for me." It's not before you like you've
No,
never
because
watched
it's like
it.
it's like too much right now. So I'm like, I'll watch it at some point. But right now,
I'm just saying it's better than Endgame right now. Like
yeah, for
This
you,
is-
for you.
no, I think
Do
a
you think
lot
it's
of people
better than Endgame for me?
I think a lot of people are way more hyped for Game of Thrones.
I
next
agree
week.
with you, but for me, it's Endgame.
All right. Well, I guess we'll have that debate when we do Endgame.
Man. Okay, so which night are we doing Infinity War? Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday's fine for me.
Wednesday night. Okay, we'll be back Wednesday night with Infinity War. We're going to review it one last time before we watch Endgame, and then we'll be back Sunday for Endgame. Well, I guess probably Monday for you guys, for listeners, but yeah. All right.
See ya.
See you guys later.
Thank you for listening to the Iron Coop Fights Movies. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, review our podcast on iTunes so that we can spread the show around. To contact the show, you can reach us at theironcube@gmail.com and on Instagram at theironcube. Join us for another edition of the Iron Coop Fights Movies.